Welcome to Chinese Novel Audiobook. Chapter 1. The world is tough, it is better to lie down. The eastern land of the Tang Dynasty. In the 12th month of the year, spring is still early and the north wind blows up the heavy snow. Nanshanbuzhou, Yanliang Town. Yanliang Town is located in the mountains, and because there are salt mines in the mountains, there are endless caravans coming and going. Among them, Shen's pawn shop is located on Hefeng Street in the west corner of the town. The shop is not large, but the pawn business does not advocate extravagance. The sun was just rising and the pawn shop was already open early. In addition to the porter who maintains order, the clerk who is responsible for miscellaneous chores, and the court attendant who identifies the value of goods, there is also a young man behind the counter. The young man was no more than 15 or 16 years old, with a fair complexion. He was lying in a recliner reading a book. In front of me, a fine purple clay teapot was warming up, along with 3 tails of kumquats, a handful of red dates, and small, reddish sweet potatoes. A myna bird with shiny black feathers was perched on the young man's shoulder, staring at the peanuts. It tried to get closer to the stove several times but was driven away by the heat. "Ah, I'm hungry. I'm hungry." Myna birds are eloquent and are a unique species among birds that can learn human language. "Don't make trouble." The young man patted the starling's head, pointed at the page with interest and talked to himself. It is said in Kaotang miscellaneous notes that night market vendors occasionally receive blood-stained silver ingots, which must be spent within 3 days, otherwise they will bleed to death from all 7 orifices. I heard that it was distributed by the gambling addicts who died unjustly. The young man turned over and asked the old official who was sitting at the counter not far away. "Mr. Wang, does the money-giving ghost really exist?" "Young master, I can't say for sure. Anyway, I haven't seen it with my own eyes." Wang Donglin smiled awkwardly and shook his head. He was already in his 60s or 70s, and had been working as an appraiser of antiques in a pawn shop for 40 years. The customers coming in and out of the pawn shop were not surprised at all, as they all knew that the only son of the pawn shop owner Shen Lian, had a strange personality. Shen Lian stayed in the lobby of the pawn shop all day doing nothing. Although he was born intelligent, his teacher praised him as a top scholar after only 3 years in private school. However, he was not interested in a career in politics. Even now, his teacher still couldn't help sighing when he mentioned Shen Lian. It seems that Shen Lian's greatest interest is to stay in the pawn shop, tasting new tea from all over the place and killing time. And play with the starling. "Young master, someone is living as a 100-year-old jade pendant, the quality is average." Old Wang turned around and handed over the jade pendant. The clerk handed it to Shen Lian attentively. The latter pretended to play with it for a while, but lost interest after a while. "Kindness." Shen Lian threw the jade pendant into the air, and the myna bird flew over and grabbed it. "Ah." The starling cleared his throat and said loudly, "It's pure cotton bean type Nanshan jade, 78 years old, worthless stuff, ah." The customers in the pawn shop started to make a noise, trying to get the myna to say something again. The starling glanced at them with disdain and hit Shen Lian on the head with its beak until the latter threw out a few burnt red-skinned peanuts. The myna bird raised by Shen Lian is also a wonder in the pawn shop. Shen Lian had been hanging around in the pawn shop for a long time, but he didn't seem to have developed any ability to appraise treasures. However, he taught my dear myna bird the ability to distinguish antique calligraphy and paintings. Once, a nobleman offered 100 taels of silver to buy the starling, but was rejected by Shen Lian. The other party did not force it. An ordinary starling is considered to have a long life if it lives for more than 7 years, and Shen Lian's starling is over 10 years old, which is equivalent to a centenarian. Come on. A familiar customer brought an antique from home and took the opportunity to touch the starling's head. "Little starling, how about taking a look at my ancestral snuff bottle?" The starling flapped its wings and fled in a hurry, using its beak to hit the head of the familiar customer repeatedly. "Ah, bastard, call me Master Ba, call me Master Ba. Ha, Master Ba, can you please have a look?" The regular customer was not angry at all. He opened his palm and took out the snuff bottle. This snuff bottle is a rare item. It smells extremely fishy when used to smoke dry tobacco. The so-called snuff bottle is usually made of porcelain and is specifically used to store tobacco powder. The starling moved closer to take a look, and the moment its claws touched the snuff bottle, the collapsed Shen Lian sat up, and man and bird looked at each other. "Big money." Shen Lian secretly called out to his career panel, and suddenly countless streams of information surged in front of him. Snuff bottle appraisal completed, court experience plus 0.7%, Jun Kiln slightly flawed snuff bottle, years. Chaofeng reaches 90.2%, martial arts points plus 1. Shen Lian chuckled and murmured in his heart, a small snuff bottle actually has so much experience, professional advancement is just around the corner. Question mark. Shen Lian, martial arts, none. Question mark. Points, 9. Occupation, court official 90.2%. Question mark. Related, Mina. Magic power, wisdom eye. Question mark. Wisdom eyes, can easily identify antique calligraphy in paintings less than 500 years old. It has been 6 years since Shen Lian traveled to this world. The original owner died of a cold caused by freezing, so he took advantage of him for nothing. He has always been cautious in his words and actions, and Shen Hansheng just thought that his only son had calmed down after his serious illness. 3 years ago, Shen Hansheng asked Shen Lian to follow Mr. Wang to see antique calligraphy and paintings to improve his eyesight, and accidentally activated the Golden Finger career panel. The first person to take office is Chao Feng, who refers to the appraiser of treasures in ancient pawnshops. As for why Chao Feng is associated with the Mina, it is purely a requirement of the profession panel. It seems that every profession must be bound to an object. Whether dead or alive, Shen Lian simply used it on the Mina bird he had raised for 7 years. As a result, after the Chaofeng profession derived the magical power of wisdom eyes, both the man and the bird could use this magical power. This creates an extremely spiritual bay. The advantage is that starlings are not limited by their lifespan, but the disadvantage is that they chatter every day and are extremely noisy, making people wish they could tie up their beaks. Shen Lian was sometimes very curious. What would happen if the objects he bound were inanimate objects? Would the tables, chairs, and benches start talking? Ah, Master Ba wants to reward people according to their merits. It's so annoying. The sharp neighing of the starling echoed in the pawnshop, and Shen Lian hurried to feed it. It caused bursts of laughter. Shen Lian took a closer look at the snuff bottle, then handed it back to the regular customer. What a treasure. If you pawned it to a pawnshop. No, I just wanted to show it to Master Ba. Ah, it's amazing. Ah, the regular customer nodded, and seeing that the morning market was already open, he walked away. Goodbye. After Shen Lian watched the regular customer go away, he lay back in his chair and couldn't help muttering in his heart. What is the basis for the amount of experience gained during the appraisal? I still don't understand it. Someone sent me a 200-year-old snuff bottle a few days ago. It was made of jade. Why didn't they provide any professional experience? Too metaphysical. The progress of Chaofeng has reached 100%, and the magical power of wisdom eyes should be promoted. However, due to the limitations of the profession, it is really meaningless. For every 10% increase in Chaofeng's career progress, he would gain 1 martial arts point, which he estimated could be used to improve the level of his internal and external skills. Unfortunately, the pawnshop's martial arts are rather rudimentary, just a few moves of wielding sticks and swords, and are not recognized by the professional panel at all. As for the martial arts school, in fact, Shen Hansheng had been helping Shen Lian find a martial arts school 2.5 years ago. However, all the martial arts schools in Yanliang town have gang backgrounds, and someone dies in them every now and then. The most outrageous thing is that in the Nanshan martial arts school that was destroyed not long ago, there were only 30 or 40 disciples and coaches living in it, but the government office found 175 fresh corpses. There were rumors that it was a ghost, but a large number of corpses couldn't just appear out of thin air, right? It was probably a gang fight, and the government deliberately downplayed the impact. The world is dangerous. It is really difficult to move forward without martial arts skills. Although Shen Lian is very satisfied with his current wealthy life, he still has to consider self-protection. When the old man sells all the antiques and returns to Yanliang town, the progress of the Chaofeng profession will be almost 100%. Yes, the points are enough. If you can't avoid the struggle in the underworld, just earn enough points to take shortcuts. If I join a martial arts school, maybe I can become a warrior. Chapter 2 How Could I Be a Demon? Not long after the lesser cold, heavy snow fell in Yanliang town. The streams outside the city have frozen over. If the weather was suitable, Shen Lian would not have to stay in the pawnshop all day. He would occasionally go to the market in Yanliang town to buy antiques and paintings. Now he naturally did not want to suffer in the cold weather. As soon as the stove was turned on, half a bowl of warm rice wine was drunk. Wouldn't it be wonderful to be sleepy for half a day? What surprised Shen Lian was that he seemed to be lucky recently, and the income from his daily pawnshop business was increasing day by day. There were always a few antique paintings and calligraphy that brought experience every day. In just a few months, Chao Feng's career progress quietly reached 95.3%. The only thing that was not going well was that Shen Hansheng had not returned home for a long time. Heavy snow blocked the mountains and made the official road difficult to travel, so Shen Hansheng had no choice but to stay in Gaojia town. He thought it would be good enough to reach Yanliang town before the new year. Also because of the sudden drop in temperature, the pawn shop's business became deserted. It was already high in the sky when Shen Lian staggered into the lobby of the pawn shop. He slept until the afternoon and had just eaten, then fell asleep as soon as he sat in the chair. The guys were not surprised, but Mr. Wang was hesitant to talk. Old Wang thought to himself, otherwise, let the shopkeeper find a marriage for Shen Lian. How can he be so eager to learn and make jokes every day? He glanced at the starling and said, it's not as hard-working as a bird. After a while, Shen Lian began to snore. Whenever the stove was short of firewood, the waiters would diligently add more. Dong dong dong. There was a sudden knock on the door. The silence of the pawnshop was broken when Ding opened the half-open door. A middle-aged man in tattered clothes walked into the pawnshop and looked at everyone in the room eagerly, with a look of satisfaction in his eyes. I'm here to pawn it. He took out the scroll from his arms. The paper was worn and yellowed. When the middle-aged man's fingers touched the scroll, he said to himself in panic, "My lady, don't be anxious, don't be anxious." The starling tilted his head and shouted, who do you care to call me mother? Call me Master Ba. The middle-aged man waved his hand in disgust to drive away the starling, and the stench from his body spread. Old Wang frowned slightly and exchanged a glance with the waiter in front of the shop. A waiter quietly came to within half a meter of the middle-aged man and waited. He had no intention of sending anyone away immediately. Mr. Wang has been in the pawnshop for decades and has seen all kinds of visitors, some of whom pretended to be crazy and stupid just to get more copper coins. Since the middle-aged man did have antique calligraphy and paintings, he planned to take a look at them first. Besides, who knows whether the beggar on the street was once a wealthy businessman. The middle-aged man stroked the scroll gently, his pale face turning slightly rosy. Excuse me, it's my wife who is too afraid of giving birth. If you're in the wrong place, you can just leave with the goods. No, I didn't come to the wrong place. Old Wang glanced at the half-exposed scroll for a few moments and noticed that the scroll was quite old, perhaps 200 or 300 years old. Unfortunately, its integrity is too poor, and there are traces of rats gnawing on the edges of the paper. Even if it is an authentic work of a celebrity, it will not be sold for much money. Sir, do you want to be alive or dead? Live pawn means that although the goods are sold to the pawnshop, both parties have a written agreement and the goods can be redeemed within a certain period of time. If it is a pawn, there is no redemption document, but the price can be higher. Huo Dang, of course it's Huo Dang, I will come to pick her up in a few days. The middle-aged man muttered something mysterious as he carefully handed over the scroll. His exposed skin was covered in frostbite, but there was not a speck of dirt on the scroll. Shen Lian stretched and woke up. He saw that the middle-aged man was indeed a lunatic, and his appearance was strangely familiar, so he turned around and asked the guys who were talking to each other next to him. Fugi, do you recognize him? Fugi gloated and said, go back to the young master. The one the master mentioned before was Li Duan, who lost all his fortune. No wonder, the ups and downs have made him hysterical. Li Duan was originally a grain merchant in Yanliang town, but the wealth accumulated by his ancestors through good deeds was squandered by him in just a few years. Shen Hansheng once went to the Li family's house to collect antique calligraphy and paintings. The last time Shen Lian heard about Li Duan was half a year ago. He didn't expect that the latter was still alive and no one knew where he was living in the cold winter of December. I'll see. Mr. Wang opened the scroll. The painting shows a woman holding an oil umbrella. Her face cannot be seen clearly, but the proportions of her hands and feet are much larger than those of an ordinary person, revealing a sense of coldness. No seal, no signature, only painting skills, anyway. Before Mr. Wang could finish his words, Li Duan in front of him screamed for no reason. "Ma'am, please spare me, I didn't mean to delay." Li Duan fell to his knees, banging his head against the floor tiles. His clothes were stained with blood, and he looked at the scroll with a horrified expression. Old Wang felt a chill in his heart, and he felt that the woman in the painting was becoming clearer and clearer. "Ha, woo." Li Duan rushed to the counter in one quick step. When Ding saw this, he quickly held down Li Duan and said, "You came here to make a living, but you don't even know your own weight." Shen Lian was afraid that Li Duan would die in the pawnshop, so he quickly signaled the pawnbroker to leave. "My wife, please don't abandon me. I can't live without you." Li Duan's face was covered in blood, with half of his nose bone exposed. He stroked the scroll tremblingly, with a trace of miserable smile on the corner of his mouth. "Miss." He stared at the scroll, blood dripping from his forehead. In Li Duan's eyes, the woman in the painting lifted up her oil umbrella, her faceless head drooped, her abdomen was torn open, her sharp teeth were exposed, and her intestines turned into a tongue that poked out. This is not an ordinary painting at all, it clearly contains man-eating hungry ghosts. Shen Lian and the others only felt that Li Duan's hysteria was either getting worse or he was going to extort money from him. Little did they know that the scroll was a hot potato. "My lady, I wish you would see me." Li Duan's facial features were ferocious and his chest was heaving violently. He knew that once his wife became interested, everyone in the pawn shop would be wiped out, and he recalled the bloody scene in his mind. "My lady, I'll come pick you up in a few days." Li Duan was carried out of the pawnshop by pawnbroker. He fell flat on his face, and the few remaining teeth he had fell out, but his eyes were still fixed on the house. That old court official would not be able to hold on and would die on the spot. For the rest of us, 2 or 3 days at most. Anyone who has come into contact with my lady will, without exception. At this moment, Shen Lian snatched the scroll and looked at it, habitually activating his wisdom eye. Well, before Li Duan finished speaking, his expression became incredible. He heard his wife's shrill screams and his eardrum was immediately ruptured. At the moment when the wisdom eye was used, Li Duan saw with horror that the woman in the painting was bathing in flames, and her beautiful skin was distorted bit by bit. Appraisal of the latest painting failed, experience gained from serving the emperor plus 0.1%. Appraisal of the latest painting failed, experience gained from serving the emperor plus 0.1%. Appraisal of the latest painting failed, experience gained from serving the emperor plus 0.1%. What? There's still talk of failed appraisal. But it's good to have experience. From a perspective invisible to ordinary people, as the wisdom eye was used again and again, the woman in the painting dissolved like butter, and then turned into light smoke and dust and returned to Shen Lian's mouth and nose. Starlings circled overhead excitedly, their cries sharp and piercing. Impossible, is he a human or a ghost? Li Duan trembled all over, and then he found that not only Shen Lian was extremely terrifying, but the myna bird he raised also seemed to be transformed from a demon. The starling's shadow cast on the wall was 2 or 3 meters long, and its outline looked like a ferocious beast on all fours, spewing out countless strange ghosts. Even in the open beak, there were blood-red pupils staring at him. Li Duan suffered a mental breakdown and banged his head madly against the stones on the street. The 2 guards were dumbfounded. Li Duan fell in a pool of blood and twitched a few times. In the end, only a gradually cooling corpse was left. They hurried into the pawn shop. "Li Duan, he's dead." Old Wang was still in shock when he found that the scroll was safe and sound in Shen Lian's hands. He muttered that it might be because of his old age and blurry eyes. The corner of Shen Lian's mouth twitched, and he waved his hand and said, "Psychopath, this is the first time I've seen someone commit suicide. What are you standing there for? Report it to the authorities." Psycho. Shen Lian was too lazy to pay attention to the starling and check the career panel. Latest painting appraisal successfully, court experience plus 5.1%. Portraits of Tang Dynasty ladies, 483rd year. Chaofeng reaches 100.7%, martial arts points plus 1. Whether to promote to the profession of 9-eared Chaofeng. Shen Lian's mind moved, and the 100.7% experience value changed to 0.07%. Promoted from Chaofeng to Jewer Chaofeng, martial arts points plus 10. Question mark. Shen Lian, martial arts, none. Question mark. Points, 20. Occupation. 9-eared Chaofeng 0.07%. Question mark. Related. Mina bird. Supernatural power. Wisdom eyes that see the subtleties. Question mark. A sharp eye for detail. Can easily identify antique calligraphy in paintings that are less than 1,000 years old. The experience gained from the second career promotion has increased tenfold. Shen Lian was speechless about the career panel. Also, what's the nonsense, 9-eared Chaofeng? It sounds like a monster from the classic of mountains and seas. What does 9-eared Chaofeng have to do with treasure appraisal? Mystical power is also extremely useless, it has only increased from 500 years to 1,000 years. Shen Lian closed his career panel and glanced at the starling. The occasional clues revealed by the latter did not seem unusual at all in his eyes. A breeze blew through the hall, and a few pages of Kaotang miscellaneous notes on the counter were turned. It is said that a child cried for no reason and pointed to the locust tree at the entrance of the village and said that he saw the ghost of a woman who had just died on the tree branch. Question mark. According to ancient records, all ordinary people have cognitive impairments of varying degrees, and if they are occasionally touched, they can briefly see ghosts and monsters with their naked eyes. Chapter 3. If he is not a master, he must be a demon. When Ding hurried to report to the police, a large number of people quickly gathered in front of the pawnshop. The body was clearly freshly dead, but there was already a foul smell coming from it. The snow was stained with dark red blood, attracting several wild dogs to stop outside. Many people recognized Li Duan, but they didn't expect that he was inexplicably killed on the roadside. They are still frightened. Li Duan's scream when he was dying was hysterical, as if he saw something horrifying. People had different opinions, but no one blamed the pawnshop. After all, everyone knows what kind of person Li Duan is. Luckily he didn't die in the store, otherwise there would be no way to defend himself. Shen Lian leaned against the door of the pawnshop. Old Wang was frightened and suddenly felt unwell, so he asked several shop assistants to help him go to the side room to rest. 9-eared worship. Shen Lian subconsciously touched his ears and found nothing unusual. I haven't changed at all, but why does it feel like the starling has grown in size? He picked up the starling and examined it, causing it to neigh in dissatisfaction. It's just a starling, it has nothing to do with the 9-eared bird. I don't understand. Shen Lian let go of the starling and continued to look at the painting of the lady in his hand. To be honest, the woman holding an umbrella in the picture does have charm, but there are thousands of outstanding paintings. Why is the experience of painting ladies so high? Chaofeng's appraisal of treasures is really too metaphysical. Shen Lian displayed his newly advanced magical power, insight into the oddities. What is better than nothing is that the information provided by Zhanwei Haoyan is more complete than that of Haoyan, and can even be traced back to the original author of the painting of ladies. Question mark. The lady's painting was successfully identified. Tang Dynasty ladies. The scroll was created by Zhu Sangxing and is 483 years old. The raw material is patchwork women's skin, which is easy to infest with insects and difficult to preserve. Hiss. Shen Lian sucked in a breath of cold air. There was nothing unusual on the surface of the painting of the lady. Who would have known that it was taken from human skin? It was really weird. He looked closely and saw that the human skin must have been simply processed and the pores were very subtle. It's true that your keen eye for detail is quite useful. You'll definitely make a fortune in the pawnbroking business. Ah. The Mina bird gave a reminder, and Shen Lian looked up and noticed that the golden guards were rushing over accompanied by constables, and the people made way for them upon seeing this. It has alarmed the Jinwu guards. Could there be some major crime behind the painting of ladies? The so-called Jinwu guards were the imperial guards responsible for security and patrolling of the Tang Dynasty. They would only appear when there was a serious murder involved. They were similar to the Jinyi guards of the Ming Dynasty, but were not as notorious as the latter. The Jinwu guards consisted of a man and a woman, wearing light black armor and with 3-foot-long swords at their waists. The man was in his early 30s, with exposed skin covered with burned scars. The woman was in her prime, with a pretty face, but her hair was dry and gray. The man signaled the woman to inquire at the pawn shop while he checked Li Duan's body. The woman walked straight towards Shen Lian, and Fugi hurriedly stepped forward to block the Jinwu guards. "Sir, I know it well. The job of a clerk is to observe people's words and expressions. Anyway, Li Duan has nothing to do with the pawn shop, so he can just explain it clearly to the Jinwu guards." Shen Lian was listening nearby, and the starling on his shoulder was making a cackling sound. The woman from the Jinwu guard called herself Zhu Yihong. She seemed calm in her speech, and her right hand, which was placed at her waist, was ready to draw her sword at any time. She pointed at Shen Lian with sharp eyes. According to you, it is this painting of a lady. Shen Lian hurriedly distanced himself from the matter. Sir, we didn't force the sale. The quality of the painting of the ladies is not worth a few copper coins, and it is a human skin scroll. It is said that the Jinwu guards have far more power to convict than the constables. If they believe that there is something wrong with the pawnshop, it will be useless even if Shen Hansheng spends money to avoid disaster. Yes, it is human skin for sure. Zhu Yihong couldn't help but look up to Shen Lian. She looked at the picture of the lady for a moment, then put it into the cloth bag around her waist. Young master has a good eye. Take a look and see if this fragment of painting has the same origin. Zhu Yihong took out a palm-sized picture card, on which only half of a woman's face was left. The styles of the two paintings were indeed very similar. Shen Lian pretended to make an appraisal, but secretly displayed his keen eye for seeing the details. The lady's painting was successfully identified, the fragment of the Tang Dynasty lady's painting. The scroll was created by Zhu Sangxing, and it is 521 years old. The raw material is patchwork women's skin, which is easy to be infested with insects and difficult to preserve. Shen Lian muttered a few words in his heart, thinking that he could gain some experience. They are all human skins, but the fragments are several dozen years older. The specific information is unknown. The damage is really terrible. Ah, Master 8. The starling wanted to add a few words, but Shen Lian quickly grabbed its neck. Excuse me, my Mina bird often speaks dirty words, and I'm afraid it will disturb your mood. Kindness. Zhu Yihong handed Shen Lian a warrant for arrest, and a faint fragrance filled his face. The man wanted is related to the painting of ladies. He is a bandit. Young master, please keep an eye on him. Come to the government office and report if you find anything. She said no more. Seeing that another Jinwu guard had finished cleaning up the bodies, she turned around and left Hefeng Street with the latter. The constable was responsible for carrying the body and wiping off the bloodstains with lime. The Jinwu guards had already walked away one after another. They only spoke in low voices when they reached the entrance of a sparsely populated alley. Zhu Yihong spoke first. Wang Xin, the painting of the ladies comes from the painted skin ghost, but there is no resentment in the painting, so it should have been used to ward off evil. Although the duties of the Jinwu guard seem to be general, they are actually the Demon Suppression Bureau established by the Tang Dynasty to deal with the demons and monsters that frequently appear in various places. Wang Xin paused. Zhu Yihong continued to add, the painting of the ladies is so pure, it must have been used to ward off evil spirits for some time. The alchemist who did it must be of a high level. Bring it. Wang Xin's pupils shrank slightly and he immediately snatched the painting of the lady. He noticed that what Zhu Yihong said was true. There was no residual resentment in the painting of ladies, but it was determined through the painting itself that it originated from painted skin ghost. What about the pawn shop? Are there any suspicious people in there? You know, some special demons can affect ordinary people's cognition. Zhu Yihong could hear Wang Xin's solemnity, shook his head and said, they are all ordinary people who have not practiced cultivation. I have asked about the pawn shop, and it has been run for 3 generations. Strange thing. Wang Xin said incredulously, although Li Duan was not killed by a ghost, there is still a faint resentment in his heart. Some of the resentment obviously entered the body not long ago. Li Duan had contact with ghosts before his death. Zhu Yihong stood there in a daze. In addition to using monks to ward off evil spirits, there is another possibility that can eliminate resentment in a short period of time. When the lady encounters a more terrifying monster, the different grievances cannot coexist, and the weaker one will dissipate. Zhu Yihong subconsciously looked towards the pawn shop. There was a faint candlelight coming from the half-open door, as if the eyes of a demon were peeping in. Don't think too much. Maybe Li Duan still had a scroll before he died. Zhu Yihong, you know that the painted skin ghost has been very active recently. Kindness. Zhu Yihong gave up the idea. It's unrealistic to think about it. It's impossible for a monstrous demon to disguise himself as an ordinary person and sneak into a pawn shop quietly, right? At the same time, Shen Lian opened the arrest warrant. The man on the document looked ugly, with his features squeezed in the middle of his fat face. There was wanted information on the back of the paper. Even the Jinwu guards have been attracted here. Yanliang town must be in trouble these days. Could it be that there are murderers everywhere killing people and skinning them? Shen Lian couldn't help but shudder and stared at the arrest warrant. On the back of the arrest warrant it said, Zhu Sangxing, born in Gaojia town, has committed 7 murders recently. A reward of 300 taels is offered for any clues. Wait, the 3 lines. Shen Lian was filled with thoughts, and his first reaction was that they had the same name. It can't be such a coincidence. Is it possible that this world is not a low-level martial arts world, and people who practice cultivation can live for more than 500 years? Chapter 4, The Collapse of Journey to the West. After Shen Lian saw the tip of the iceberg of this world, he couldn't help but feel excited. Since there is hope of lying flat for 500 years, it is still necessary to work hard. It is said that life is not only about the present, but also about the future. Suddenly, there is one more reason to practice martial arts. He put away the arrest warrant and went to the side room to check on Mr. Wang, who was found to be fine. The next few days were relatively calm. Shen Lian noticed that the experience gained from appraisals had indeed shrunk tenfold, and the profit from occasional treasure appraisals had only increased by 1,000th. Seeing this, he decided to put martial arts training on the agenda. It just so happens that Zhou Chaofeng's efficiency in tanking has been reduced. Well, I might as well take up a warrior profession. Double tanking is the best way. Of course, one should not be too blind in practicing martial arts in Yanliang town where there are all kinds of people. Shen Lian asked old Wang to help select martial arts schools. Several assistants also inquired about the news intentionally or unintentionally while purchasing daily supplies. After half a month of investigation, the scope was finally narrowed down to 5 martial arts schools. After he declined Dang Ding's offer to follow him, he chose a sunny morning to walk out of the shop, intending to go and see the latest developments of the various martial arts schools on his own. A cold wind blew in my face. Hiss! Shen Lian shuddered, and the starling screamed and crawled into his clothes. It seemed that the man and the bird had not left the house since late autumn. Ah, Master Ba is going to hibernate. If you shit on me, I'll kill you. Birds are all straightforward, but after being assigned the profession of court servant, the starling has indeed changed its habit of solving problems anywhere. Anyway, Shen Lian weighed up the starling and couldn't help but complain. Why is it that I didn't get any benefit from the career advancement, but you, starling, have become much stronger and have caught up with the crow? 8th Master, call me 8th Master. Hey, you're my dad, okay. Shen Lian rubbed his hands in coldness and walked towards the reserved martial arts gym. There are New Year decorations along the streets, with upside-down blessing calligraphy often seen, and bright red lanterns emitting a faint light. A poor scholar set up a stall to sell calligraphy, with reluctance written all over his face. When the weather gets warmer, the business of pitching pots and catching rings will also appear. The spring festival market in the Tang Dynasty is still very interesting. However, whether it is the Tang Dynasty in the previous life remains to be discussed. In Shen Lian's impression, the Tang Dynasty was completely destroyed in just 200 or 300 years. But in today's world, the Tang Dynasty actually lasted for 1,000 years, and the geographical location in private school textbooks was even marked as Nanshanbuzhou. Only in Journey to the West did the world be divided into 4 continents. In addition to Jambudvipa, there are also Dongshengshenzhou, Xiniuhuzhou and Beijuluzhou. Southern Continent, Eastern Tang. If I hadn't seen any monsters or demons, and there was no golden cicada, I would have thought I had arrived at the Journey to the West. The world of Journey to the West is full of fights between gods and immortals, with Taoism and Buddhism arguing constantly. In the Eastern Tang Dynasty where Shen Lian was located, Taoism and Buddhism were not very prosperous, but the imperial court had a strong presence, and the Jinwu guards were spread throughout the towns. It's the morning market. When Shen Lian passed by the morning market at the border of the northwest urban area, what caught his eye was the surging crowds of people. There was an endless stream of vendors hawking their wares, the aroma of all kinds of pastries wafted in the air, and the voice of the storyteller chatting away could be heard from the tea house. Shen Lian glanced at the morning market entrance and saw a starling's head poking out of his coat. Ah, big butt, good for childbearing, worthless thing. Shen Lian attracted strange looks from the others. He grabbed the myna bird by the neck and lowered his head to dive into the crowd. You are here to appraise treasures. The crowd paid no attention to the man or the bird. Shen Lian didn't want to show off on this trip, so he took a detour to the nearest alley. Next time you dare to talk nonsense, I will put you in a birdcage as soon as you leave the house. Call me Master Ba. The myna bird shook its head slyly. Shen Lian sighed, not in the mood to continue fooling around with the starling. He pointed to the martial arts hall 100 meters away. It was heavily guarded. There were 4 guards at the door alone. A plaque read, Haisong Martial Arts Hall. As usual, if you want to get information, you get 2 ounces of peanuts. 8th Master wants 3 taels. Go quickly, go quickly. Shen Lian waved his hands weakly, and the starling flew into the Black Pine Martial Arts Hall. He found a stall nearby and observed the warriors coming in and out with his peripheral vision. Usually, he could tell whether they had a gang background by their attire. The Haisong Martial Arts School has been established for 20 years and has a very comprehensive martial arts heritage. It is unclear how they make their living behind the scenes, but at least on the surface they seem stable. Many children of wealthy businessmen have joined the Black Pine Martial Arts School. Shen Lian waited until noon before the starling returned to his side. This time, the myna bird didn't shout loudly, but leaned close to Shen Lian's ear and whispered. Shen Lian's expression changed after hearing this. He left the morning market without hesitation and headed for the next Baichao Martial Arts School. I've got a big melon. According to what the maids talked about, the women in the Black Pine Martial Arts School often suffer inexplicable miscarriages, and all the dead babies are buried under the rockery in the backyard. There are only about 10 women in a large martial arts school. It's unrealistic for them to give birth every month. It can't be the ghost mother in Kaotang Miscellaneous Notes, right? In my opinion, the Black Pine Martial Arts School must be secretly involved in human smuggling. That is a capital crime. No. Shen Lian came to Baichao Martial Arts School, which specializes in light kung fu and leg techniques. Myna brother observed secretly again and found that there were not too many problems in Baichao's martial arts school. It was a pity that they had not recruited any disciples in the past 6 months. As it was getting late, Shen Lian had to think about it tomorrow. On his way back to the pawn shop, he stopped by the alternative Tide Martial Arts School. The Tide Martial Arts School is of average size, having been established in Yanliang town for only half a year. The owner is an outsider martial artist, which makes Shen Lian feel apprehensive. The world of martial arts is full of dangers, and many foreign warriors have committed crimes in their original hometowns. The upside is that it has little to do with gangs. Shen Lian released the starling, which was responsible for keeping watch and attracting the police when encountering danger. He pushed open the half-open door of the martial arts hall, and what came into view was a dozen children squatting in horse stance, some of them with trembling legs and crying. A middle-aged man with a stern face poured freezing well water on the child's back. The owner of Tide Pavilion is named by Haibo, who looks like a rough man in his early 40s. His thick muscles show that he is an expert in external martial arts. The situation of the martial arts school should be average, and the clothes by Haibo was wearing had turned white due to washing. Only by enduring the most difficult hardships can one achieve unparalleled success. Sanner, let your chi sink into your dantian. Kindness. Shen Lian raised his eyebrows and noticed that there were some fish scales on Bai Haibo's half-exposed neck. When Bai Haibo saw a guest coming, he signaled the child to rest for a while, then came to Shen Lian and bowed to him in a friendly gesture. Sir, are you here to learn martial arts? Shen Lian did not reply, so Bai Haibo quickly explained, my name is Bai Haibo. I worked at the Longxing Escort Agency in Yanliang town for 13 years. I just founded a martial arts school recently. I am not a bad guy. If you want to join us, the money will definitely be cheaper than other families. After saying this, Bai Haibo bent down and knelt, and the burning energy and blood rushed to his face. The Tide Martial Arts School focuses on hard qigong and boxing, and its inheritance is placed at the foundation building stage, which can definitely be considered as mid-level. Then why are you so down and out? People in the public divide the quality of martial arts inheritance into 3 grades, upper, middle and lower. The middle grade can be ranked among the top even in Yanliang town. This skill is suitable for aquatic life. There are no big rivers near Yanliang town. Bai Haibo asked and answered questions, occasionally testing Shen Lian's attitude. It can be seen that he really doesn't want to miss Shen Lian. The children of Chaoshi Martial Arts School were born in poverty and were sent here to learn martial arts in order to have multiple career options. In the future, they could become security guards, bodyguards, etc. However, their families would not have the extra money to support them to become martial artists. Bai Haibo currently does not have any direct disciples, all of them are outer disciples, and the business of the martial arts school is probably not enough to make ends meet. Poor in literature and rich in martial arts. A rich young man like Shen Lian, even if he is older, can make up for the age gap by taking powerful medicines, so that he can hope to refine his body and build a foundation. Master Bai, your fish scales are. Bai Haibo replied with a silly smile. When the body is polished with external skills, it is inevitable that special will be produced, but you can rest assured, young master, I am not a sea dweller, so fish scales are almost invisible. Special. I've heard a little bit about it. Shen Lian heard Shen Hansheng say this and knew that people who practiced martial arts had a different appearance from ordinary people, but he didn't expect the fish scales to be so exaggerated. He recalled the two Jinwu guards, one with skin covered in scars, and the other with dry and pale hair. Sir, you should know the Hunshan Martial Arts School in the North City, which is also famous for its external skills. The special external skills of Hunshan Martial Arts School make the body hair abundant. After reaching perfection, the hair is difficult to be cut by swords, but it is impossible to get close to women. Okay, I'll come to the museum during this period of time. Bai Haibo opened his mouth slightly. The young man in front of him was indeed a bit strange. Chapter 6 There are always ghosts trying to harm me. Shen Lian returned to the pawnshop and asked the clerk to find out more. Although Bai Haibo is a foreigner, he does have a good reputation. The reason why he opened a martial arts school was purely because he suffered injuries while escorting a caravan. The inheritance of Tide Martial Arts School is external skills, which are used to hone the body, and there is no internal skills. Therefore, once the foundation is damaged, external skills will find it difficult to lock the qi and blood. At the age of 40, Bai Haibo is destined to have qi and blood decline. This is the case for warriors, their prime is in their 30s or 40s. Shen Lian was very curious about this. No matter how he inquired about the news, he had never heard of martial arts prolonging life. So how did Zhu Sangxing live for more than 500 years? Is there such a thing as cultivating immortals? Shen Lian immediately gave up the idea. Immortals would not hide away and kill a few mortals. He became more and more interested in martial arts, but unfortunately internal skills were very rare, so he could only start with external skills. Tide Martial Arts School was the best choice. The Tide Martial Arts School possesses intermediate martial arts. Even though the environment in Yanliang town is not suitable, the foundation effect is definitely better than that of inferior martial arts. Now that he had made up his mind, Shen Lian stopped fussing. A few days later, he asked his servant to present the gift of apprenticeship. During this period, Bai Haibo would also inquire about Shen Lian's background. After all, once the gift was accepted, it would mean that the master-disciple relationship between the two was established. In ancient times, becoming a disciple was extremely complicated. Especially for direct disciples, there is not much difference between finding a master and finding a biological father. However, Bai Haibo was very conscious of the situation and did not choose to make a big fuss about it. It seemed that they were father and son in name only, but in reality, we were of different generations. There's no way. 10 poor families can't compare to one rich kid. Although the pawnshop is not rich, it can provide for a warrior without any problems. Shen Lian should be able to become a warrior before he turns 30. It took them more than half a month to complete the ceremony of becoming apprentices. Shen Lian visited Tide Martial Arts School again. In accordance with the rules of martial arts, he only wore a single layer of clothing. Shen Lian had just left the pawn shop and was blown by the biting cold wind. He already started to miss the fireplace in the shop and couldn't help sighing. Hey, ah! The starling quacked in glee. Shen Lian didn't bother to pay attention to the starling and walked quickly towards the Tide Martial Arts School. At this time in Yanliang town, the festive atmosphere is already very strong. Lights and decorations are hung everywhere, children are playing on street corners, and the word, "Fu," is posted on every household. Unfortunately, I don't know when old man Shen will come back. Shen Lian was a little worried about Shen Hansheng. Logically speaking, the routes to and from Gaojia town have been arranged, and the pawn business has not gone wrong, so there should be no problem. Kindness. When Shen Lian was approaching the street where the martial arts gym was located, he suddenly heard sobbing. There were men and women in mourning clothes, and paper money was scattered all over the ground. People gathered outside the alley at the street corner. Old Lady Chen is so miserable. She just celebrated her 70th birthday last month, right? Yes, I heard that the youngest son woke up and saw his mother lying on the edge of the bed with her skin peeled off. Where did the bad guys come from? This has probably happened 3 or 4 times this month. Death without a whole body. ... People were talking about it, and Shen Lian frowned slightly after hearing it. All 3 lines. Shen Lian was secretly shocked. The government office had mobilized all its manpower to investigate the corpse stripping case. Even the Jinwu guards had been dispatched, but they still had no clue. He originally thought that even if the government failed to catch Zhu Sangxing, the latter would be more restrained. Now it seems that Zhu Sangxing seems to be committing crimes in defiance of the law. The target of the crime turned out to be a 70-year-old woman. Shen Lian muttered to himself, "It's not the ghost in Kaotang miscellaneous notes. How can it come and go freely in a densely populated residential area? Haha, no wonder the gangs have been quite peaceful recently." At this time, 20 or 30 constables swarmed out of the alley, and the people retreated one after another. At the same time, a pungent fishy smell hit them in the face. "It stinks." The mynah bird crawled into Shen Lian's sleeve. It is indeed a case of disembowelment. The old woman's body was wrapped in sackcloth and tied with several circles of red rope. If the body has died tragically, a red rope is essential in Yanliang town. It is said that this is to prevent the exposed evil spirit from disturbing the living. Zhu Yihong followed behind with a serious expression, staring at the corpse. After not seeing each other for a long time, Shen Lian discovered that Zhu Yihong's hair had become even more withered, probably due to some special effects of practicing martial arts. Zhu Yihong shouted, "Silence! Starting today, Xicheng district will be under curfew. The posted notice will be taken down in a moment." After Zhu Yihong finished speaking, he left and disappeared at the end of the street with many detectives. The smell of blood lingered in the air. The people couldn't help but show fear on their faces, and then they all ran around to tell each other. Curfew. In Shen Lian's impression, there has been no curfew in Yanliang town in recent years, which shows how difficult it is for the government to deal with the 3 branches. But why is it limited to Xicheng district? What? Shen Lian came back to his senses from the long cry of the starling. The pawn shop and Tide martial arts school are both within the West City area. I hope nothing goes wrong. Shen Lian did not delve into the corpse stripping case. Since even the government was helpless, it was not something a commoner like him could do anything about. "Mynah, let's go." The starling was hovering at the entrance of the alley, its dark eyes seeming to be sizing up something. Shen Lian went to Tidal Martial Arts Hall without looking back. The starling quickly flapped its wings and landed on his shoulder, continuing to comb its feathers conceitedly. Shortly after he left, a clattering noise was heard in the alley. The people around couldn't hear any sound at all, and the constables on duty didn't notice anything unusual, except that the rats were scrambling to escape. A few drops of blood flowed from the linen cloth and began to flow for no reason. They gathered together little by little and attached themselves to the moss that grew in the dampness beside the wall. The moss grew brighter and brighter red. It was as if minced meat had stained the wall and was growing rapidly over time. Some people looked towards the entrance of the alley. It was pitch black, with a draft of wind howling and a creepy sound coming from it. From a perspective invisible to ordinary people, an old woman was crawling out of the wall little by little. The old woman was about 70 years old, with wrinkles all over her face, lifeless pupils without pupils, and age spots that looked like corpse spots. After she completely broke away from the wall, her skin became smooth at a speed visible to the naked eye. "Who?" The constable looked inside with a lantern in hand, but found no one there. The lantern was moved away. As light and darkness changed, the old woman in the shadows disappeared, and was replaced by a young woman holding a green umbrella to cover her facial features. The woman covered her mouth and chuckled, looking at Shen Lian's back not far away. The instinct from a new ghost made her target the young man with abundant energy. Then, she turned into a piece of human skin and seeped into the gaps between the wall tiles. What is painted skin ghost? He was extremely ugly when alive, and turned into a ghost after death. He liked to eat human hearts. He usually painted with women's skin and wrapped it around his body. If the painted skin ghost devours 99 and 81 human hearts, he will no longer be satisfied with disguising himself as a woman. The greed of the bottomless pit makes the painted skin ghost repeatedly seek comfort from skinning, and the discarded skin will turn into a new ghost. Skin ghost. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audiobook YouTube channel. Chapter 7 Second Occupation Warrior. As Shen Lian approached the entrance of the martial arts hall, a dozen children poked their heads out. Hello, senior brother. Bai Haibo had told the children in advance that Shen Lian would be the eldest senior brother of the martial arts school from now on and would receive the true teachings of the Tide Martial Arts School. Happy New Year to all my fellow apprentices. Shen Lian nodded and distributed red envelopes containing copper coins to his fellow apprentices. The child took it happily. What? Shen Lian discovered that there was a strange-looking boy in the courtyard, looking at him timidly. The boy is thin, with delicate skin, slightly sharp teeth, translucent fish scales on his neck, and a thin film between his palms. Resembles aquatic animals. Are you Master Bai's son? It's okay, come here. The boy hesitated for a moment, then ran towards Shen Lian. The children around him immediately showed fear on their faces, but did not avoid him. Shen Lian touched the boy's head and couldn't help asking, "What's your name?" "Big brother, my name is Bai Jinbao." "Thank you, senior brother." After taking the New Year's money, Bai Jinbao disappeared into the backyard of the martial arts hall. Hyman, that's really weird. Without Bai Jinbao around, the other children felt much more relaxed. They stole glances at the myna bird on Shen Lian's shoulder, their eyes full of curiosity. Ah, a handsome man with a beautiful bird. The starling enjoyed the children's admiring gazes. It puffed out its chest and combed its black feathers. Its appearance was definitely close to that of a large bird of prey. Shut up and don't embarrass yourself. The corners of Shen Lian's mouth twitched, and he walked into the lobby amid the children's exclamations. In the lobby, Bai Haibo sat in the main seat with a smile on his face, while the secondary seat was empty. His wife drowned a few years ago, and he did not choose to remarry. There is very little sandalwood. The starling covered its beak with its wings and became much quieter. Disciple Shen Lian greets the master. Shen Lian bowed respectfully and was about to kneel down when Bai Haibo quickly stood up to stop him. No, the ground is cold. The two of them understood each other tacitly. Shen Lian sat down on the wooden chair beside him. Bai Haibo was already pouring the turmeric tea that he had prepared in advance. The master pours the tea and the disciple drinks it. When Bai Haibo saw a child peeking, he coughed a few times awkwardly, then closed the door and chatted with Shen Lian. The process of becoming an apprentice is naturally simple. After the two of them got to know each other, Bai Haibo discovered that Shen Lian had a steady mind, unlike the frivolous young man. In addition, he was the only son of the pawnshop, so it was very likely that he would complete the foundation building in the future. If I can train a warrior, I won't be restricted in recruiting disciples. Shen Lian, I will tell you the rules of martial arts, and you should also have a sense of propriety in your heart. Thank you, Master Bai. As the saying goes, 70% of getting started depends on physical training, and 30% depends on your physique. You are already quite old. If you want to achieve something in martial arts, you must be prepared to practice hard, otherwise there is no hope for you as a martial artist. Shen Lian listened to Bai Haibo's sermon, smiled without saying a word, and his consciousness swept across the career panel. Points, 20. Years of experience. Grinding is not for the purpose of honing your body like a hard-working person. Dark blue, add some. Master Bai, I met Bai Jinbao earlier. Does he also practice martial arts? Bai Haibo knew Shen Lian's concerns about his special abilities, so he said with a wry smile, "Don't worry, Jinbao's special abilities are innate. Even if one practices the martial arts of our Tide Martial Arts School to the level of a warrior, the derived special abilities are minimal. It can also allow warriors to master water and hold their breath for a long time underwater." Is it that Bai Jinbao can't practice martial arts? It's very difficult. Being born with this special ability will lead to a weak body and weak energy. There's no way you can even get started. Jinbao is in poor health and spends most of his time indoors. If he's not careful, he might catch a deadly cold. Shen Lian suspected that a warrior's special ability would be passed down through blood, and Bai Haibo must have had an outstanding warrior in his ancestry, which influenced his descendants. Children who inherited special abilities had congenital defects in their genes. Bai Haibo took a sip of tea. There is a rumor that we sea dwellers are descendants of the Dragon King of the East Sea. Ah, miscellaneous. Just as the starling was about to express his opinion, Shen Lian grabbed his neck. Master Bai, how many days do you think I should stay at the Tide Martial Arts School? Bai Haibo ignored what Badge said and said thoughtfully, your pawnshop is not far from the martial arts hall. You don't have to stay in the martial arts hall. I think you can master the pile method in 20 to 30 days. In fact, he estimated that Shen Lian would take about 2 months, but he was concerned about the latter's face. At the age of 16, one's bones are almost formed, so it is inevitable that one will get stuck at the entry level. The method of external body training is standing still, that is, guiding the qi and blood through horse stance. In the long run, it can promote the transformation of the physical body. After he finished speaking, his legs arched, his muscles squirmed, his skin rippled like water waves, and rich energy and blood emanated. The pile method of Tide martial arts school is called wave chasing pile. If you have a glimpse of it, you can achieve skin refining. And foundation building is divided into 4 levels: refining the skin, refining the flesh, refining the bones, and refining the blood. After building the foundation further, you will reach the realm of warrior. As Bai Haibo continued to tell the story, something strange started to appear on Shen Lian's career panel. The warrior occupation has been triggered. You can start the job by spending 1 point. Shen Lian showed a look of delight. It turned out that he could get a second career from the martial arts school. He had previously triggered other occupation panels, but they were all very useless, such as farmer, worker, accountant. Shen Lian doesn't think that the career panel can be used without restrictions, and it would be a waste of quotas on life professions. No matter how you think about it, warriors are more reliable. Determine. Shen Lian's mind moved, and the career panel suddenly added the information of warrior. Question mark. Shen Lian. Martial arts. None. Question mark. Points. 19. Occupation. 9-yeared Chaofeng 0.13%. Question mark. Related. Mina bird. Supernatural power. Wisdom eyes that see the subtleties. Occupation. Warrior 0%. Question mark. Relationship. None. Magic power. Asterisk asterisk. Comma 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 comma. Shen Lian's expression was dazed. The moment he became a warrior, his heart seemed to stop for a moment and an inexplicable throbbing arose in his mind. The excitement was fleeting, and the career panel showed the prompt again. Warrior professions need to bind fundamental objects within 12 hours. The warrior profession does not have fundamental qualities, and cannot develop magical powers. The wisdom eye that Chao Feng awakened after binding with the Mina bird now seems to be closely related to the fundamental object. Supernatural powers are also related to the way of gaining experience while idle. I can't bind living things. Just one starling is annoying enough. And I always feel that this starling is taking advantage of the benefits that the golden finger has given me. Although Mina is fat and strong, Shen Lian has not enjoyed any benefits of career advancement. He agreed with Bai Haibo on the surface, but couldn't help but recall that in the warehouse of the pawn shop, there were some weapons collected by Shen Hansheng. Hey, if you bind a weapon, the awakened magical power might focus on killing. Alas, it's a pity that the best weapons are all in the hands of the government. Starting with ancient weapons, there should be some unexpected gains. Shen Lian wanted to go home immediately to study the selection of fundamental substances. The only headache was that Shen Lian didn't want to practice martial arts from morning to night, which was completely contrary to his life plan of lying down. Sometimes, being good at everything can be a hassle. Chapter 8: The Nine-Eared Demon in the Starling's Belly. When Shen Lian thought about the fundamental things, he became less and less interested in staying in the martial arts gym. Master Bai, the corpse stripping case is still brewing, and there is also a 70-year-old woman who died tragically at home nearby. Why don't I go back to the pawn shop first? Tell me more specifically about the corpse stripping case. Bai Haibo had just finished listening to Shen Lian's retelling of the corpse stripping case, but within half an hour he could already smell the smoke from burning paper money. It might be Chen Maochen's mother. Bai Haibo frowned slightly. The old lady of the Chen family lives a secluded life, how could she offend the criminals wanted by the government? Still is. Bai Haibo's pupils shrank slightly as he realized that the corpse stripping case might involve demons and ghosts. His face was solemn, and his deep eyes swept across the outside of the martial arts hall. The yamen runners were beating gongs and drums, loudly announcing the curfew in the neighborhood. Bai Haibo once traveled around the world and witnessed the horror of demons and monsters. Warriors are as powerless as a mantis trying to stop a chariot in front of demons and monsters. Only the legendary alchemists can hurt one or two of them. It seems that internal energy is also effective in dealing with demons and monsters, but it is extremely difficult to kill them. Bai Haibo had never come into contact with internal energy, and he had heard that internal energy had unimaginable disadvantages. Generally speaking, warriors were not much better than ordinary people. Shen Lian, let me take you back to the pawn shop. Bai Haibo deliberately did not mention demons and monsters. The qi and blood of living people are like flames, which can resist the resentment emitted by demons and monsters. However, if a living person is frightened, it is inevitable that his mind will be disturbed, leading to the decline of qi and blood, which will easily attract the attention of demons and monsters. Therefore, the government issued an order stipulating that matters concerning demons and monsters must not be spread outside. It's okay, in broad daylight. Shen Lian didn't know whether Zhu Sengxing was a demon or a monster, but the targets of the corpse stripping cases were all women, and the crimes were committed in the middle of the night. There was no reason to be so frightened during the day. I'll walk you to the entrance of the alley. It's only a few steps away. Shen Lian and Bai Haibo chatted and walked out of the lobby. In the courtyard, the children were still doing horse stance. Lacking any efficacious medicine, they could only rely on the severe cold from the outside world to stimulate the transformation of their skin and flesh. Hello, master. Hello, senior brother. You continue to stand for half an hour, and then go home early. The two of them walked straight into the shadowy alley. Shen Lian was in front, and the myna bird flew off his shoulder and patrolled in the air. Bai Haibo was behind, and the moment he stepped into the alley, he stumbled. The sound of dripping water and squeaking rodents in the corners. Something's wrong. Bai Haibo took a deep breath and smelled a bloody smell in his nose. Veins popped out on his forehead, his muscles tensed up, and his heartbeat became more and more frequent. His experience in the martial arts world quickly led him to a conclusion. Resentment is overflowing, there is a ghost. What puzzled Bai Haibo was that Shen Lian did not stop at all. Normally, unless the ghost shows up actively, ordinary people cannot directly sense the ghost, but since there is resentment here, it will cause some discomfort. Am I worrying too much? Shen Lian, you. Bai Haibo continued to take a step forward. Before he finished speaking, an inexplicable chill penetrated deep into his bones. Bai Haibo took out a jade bottle containing talisman water given by the government office. He quickly smeared it on his eyelids to peek into the true appearance of demons and monsters. Hee, bring me my human skin. Bai Haibo was horrified to see a woman's face appear on the wall, her mouth stretched from ear to ear, blood dripping from her sharp teeth. Ghost. Even the newly born demons and monsters are not something that warriors can contend with. Bai Haibo wanted to remind Shen Lian, but he could only make a slight gurgling sound, and he had to mobilize all his energy and blood to barely stop his vitality from collapsing. Master Bai, you don't have to see me off. I will come again tomorrow to ask for martial arts instruction. Shen Lian disappeared into the alley as if nothing had happened. The ghost face was filled with greed, flesh flowing between the cracks in the wall, the upper and lower jaws were opened half a meter, and the tongue covered with herpes kept twisting. Die. Bai Haibo didn't think Shen Lian was immune to the ghost's grievances. The ghost was probably trying to lure its prey into a trap and eat Shen Lian alive. With the speed of the ghost, it might have already caught Shen Lian. At this moment, a shrill scream rang out for no reason, as if the woman was being tortured to death. All the resentment is gone. Bai Haibo regained control of his body and realized that the scream came from the ghost in the wall, so he quickly looked deep into the alley. His pupils were shaking. The scene that came into Bai Haibo's eyes was enough to make him unforgettable in his life. The darkness was pitch black. Shen Lian was nowhere to be found, only a giant nine-eared beast about 6 or 7 meters tall was vaguely visible, with black and gray hair scattered all over it, and it was biting something. He listened carefully to the source of the scream. Wasn't it coming from the mouth of the nine-eared beast? Roar! The ghost face disappeared into ashes. Blood-red vertical pupils lit up. Bai Haibo could not bear the intimidation from the mere gaze of the nine-eared beast. His legs went soft and he fell to the ground with his head raised. After the nine-eared beast swallowed the ghost face, it turned into invisible smoke and dust and gathered together. The starling opened its beak and stood on the eaves beside the alley. The smoke and dust of the nine-eared monster disappeared into it, and then it made a few more chirping sounds. It's worthless stuff. The myna bird grabbed a human skin scroll and threw it to Shen Lian, who was walking. Shen Lian held the human skin scroll in his hand, his mouth slightly opened, and a large amount of information was revealed on his career panel. You are crazy, Brother B, where did you find the human skin scroll? Latest painting appraisal is successful, 9-year courtesan experience plus 1.3%. Tang Dynasty ladies. Worked by Zhu Sangxing, the scroll was made half a day ago. The raw material is patchwork women's skin, which is easy to be infested with insects and difficult to preserve. Shen Lian's face looked slightly better. After his career advancement, Zhu Sangxing's human skin scroll seemed to be the only one that provided more than 1% of experience. Hiss, half a day ago. Damn it, isn't this just the old woman's human skin? Do you really think you are a crow? Picking up garbage everywhere, I will be killed by you sooner or later. Contact the Jinwu guards. No, if they get targeted by the 3 sects, it would be more trouble than it would take. What? Shen Lian grabbed the starling and stuffed the human skin scroll into the bird's claws. Master Ba, throw the scroll in from the east back wall of the yamen. Stay away from the constables and make sure you are not discovered by the Jinwu guards. The starling tilted its head and flapped its wings to fly through the blind spots between the houses. Shen Lian breathed a sigh of relief. Shen Lian, are you okay? Shen Lian turned his head and saw Bai Haibo moving towards him, holding onto the wall. Master Bai, I'm fine. How did you suddenly get hit so hard? Cough cough cough. Bai Haibo looked around in confusion. Shen Lian didn't look like he was encountering a ghost. Could it be that the Jinwu guards were attacking him secretly? Why did it feel like demons and ghosts were fighting each other? Bai Haibo suppressed his distracting thoughts. He couldn't participate in it anyway. Master was seriously injured in his early years, and the injury recurred if he is not careful. Shen Lian felt that his cheap master was just a show-off. How could a warrior be so fragile? He wanted to support Bai Haibo, but the latter waved his hand to refuse. It's okay, master. Don't walk down this alley from now on. It's unlucky. Bai Haibo suppressed his injuries. After all, the ghost was dead and its resentment had dissipated. However, he was inevitably weak and infirm recently. Shen Lian exchanged a few quick words of greeting and left the alley, anxious to bind his essential items. Bai Haibo watched Shen Lian go away, the latter's shadow lengthening little by little in the sunlight. He couldn't help but think back to the horrifying 9-eared beast. After a long time, Bai Haibo smiled bitterly and shook his head. It's impossible that Shen Lian is a demon or ghost in disguise, right? There seems to be an alchemist among the Jinwu guards. Could it be that some master has taken action? Chapter 9: The Fundamentals of the Warrior Profession. Shen Lian put the episode in the alley behind him and thought about the basics of a warrior. It is unrealistic for Zhou Chaofeng to be promoted in a short period of time. He can only rely on warriors to obtain points, provided that the warrior's sources of experience are not metaphysical. Shen Lian plunged into the pawnshop. Old Wang noticed Shen Lian in a hurry and secretly lamented that the young master had changed his personality. If the young master becomes a warrior, matchmakers will probably be scrambling to find him. Maybe in a few years, he can get married and have children. Shen Lian came to the door of the warehouse. It is called a warehouse, but it is more appropriate to call it a storage room, as it contains items of low value. Pawnshops not only have to collect antiques, but also have to dispose of them regularly to ensure sufficient money for turnover, so there are few valuable antiques left in the warehouse. Mina, watch out outside. The Mina bird pecked Shen Lian's head and landed on the top of the eaves. Shen Lian climbed through the window and entered the warehouse, where the smell of long-sealed mildew wafted into his nose. In fact, when he first took office as a court official, he had sneaked into the warehouse and vaguely remembered that the experience provided by the antiques there was little and bland. Shen Lian stood still. There are 4 wooden shelves in the warehouse, and the objects near the corner are the relics of the deceased mother of the previous life. The rest of the wooden shelves were filled with antiques, but unfortunately they were either in very poor condition or had questionable origins, so Shen Hansheng found it difficult to sell them. Shen Lian wiped the dust off the surface of the relic and then picked out the weapon. Most of the weapons were pawned, with yellowed receipts pressed on the bottom. The customers never came to redeem them, and I'm afraid they would end up with their heads and bodies separated. I wonder if there are any good treasures among these swords. Shen Lian sat in front of the pile of weapons and took out a rusty tiger head machete. This knife looks sinister. Maybe there are several dead souls on its blade. See the slightest clue and use your wisdom. Successful identification of cattle-killing knife. Bull-killing knife. Made by Wang Guang, the knife is 37 years old. The raw material is scrap iron, the blade is rusted, and it is easy to break when hit by hard objects. Closing square bracket. A butcher's knife. It looks great, but it's useless. Shen Lian threw it aside and picked up an ancient and old sword. Question mark. Antique sword identification successful. Question mark. Antique sword. Made by Jin Bingley, the knife is 11 years old. The raw material is scrap iron, the blade is rusted, and it is easy to break when hit by hard objects. Closing square bracket. The corner of Shen Lian's mouth twitched, and he suddenly realized that the warehouse was indeed a pile of scrap metal. How could such a precious weapon end up in a pawn shop? You can't spend hundreds of taels of silver to find a blacksmith to make it, right? Shen Lian shook his head. The maximum amount of money I can mobilize is 100 taels. The weapon casting technology among the people is backward, and the government's weapons are unlikely to flow out. Does Shen Lian have to take on a part-time job as a blacksmith? There are only 12 hours in total. There is no point in getting a third job. Shen Lian identified them one by one without believing in evil. It took him a long time to finally select some decent weapons. Question mark. 100-year-old hardwood stick. Made by Sun Yang, the wooden stick is 45 years old. The raw material is 300-year-old hardwood and soaked in tung oil to prevent insects. Closing square bracket. Question mark. Fine iron heart mirror. Made by the government military department, the heart-protecting mirror has a history of 36 years. The raw material is fine iron, and it is badly damaged and can hardly withstand heavy blows. Closing square bracket. Shen Lian remained silent. The hardwood stick has a bit of age. 300 years old hardwood is really rare. But the breastplate is a remnant of military armor, and the material is relatively high quality. Shen Lian did not consider the damage to the weapon. After professional promotion, it should be possible to repair it, and even the material of the weapon would be completely transformed. The difference between the two is the main attack and the main defense. Shen Lian had a lot of thoughts in his mind, and a decision was vaguely formed in his heart. Well, it seems there is a better choice. Shen Lian raised his eyebrows and suddenly remembered an object he had seen before. He ignored the scattered weapons, got up and left the warehouse, went to the study where Shen Hansheng usually did his accounts, and rummaged through the desk. Have it. Shen Lian was holding a dagger made of a special material. The material of the dagger was like amber or jade, but it was only the size of a palm. Under the warm sunlight, it showed a faint halo. He, old man Shen's treasure, the bone jade dagger. Except for the strange ingredients, this is a very suitable essential item for warriors. Question mark. Bone blade. Made by monk Fa Ming, the bone blade has a history of 366 years. The raw material is jadified monk bones, which are very easy to damage. Closing square bracket. The so-called jadification of human bones refers to the fact that after a long period of playing with the bones, the sweat from the palms of the hands seeps into the bones, causing the material to become jadified. The material of the bone jade matches the flesh, and its appearance is that of a weapon. The only drawback is that it cannot be used against the enemy for the time being, but that's okay. That's it. Are you sure that the bone blade is the fundamental thing for a warrior? After Shen Lian hesitated for a few moments, he called up the occupation panel to confirm the basic information, and the information displayed on the warrior occupation suddenly changed. Occupation. Warrior, 0%. Question mark. Related. Bone blade. Again, Shen Lian couldn't help but cover his chest. The blood circulation speed suddenly increased, and then his consciousness fell into an inexplicable trance. He was not panicked because a similar situation had occurred when he had bound the starling before. The bone blade was slightly hot. Ah, the starling's sharp neigh seemed to foreshadow something. No one noticed that strange and inexplicable things were happening in the study. First, inky black blood began to flow out of Shen Lian's facial features. The blood was no different from that of a living thing, and it was wriggling silently. Blood dripped onto the ground. Shen Lian's shadow began to boil, as if giving birth to unspeakable monsters and demons. Buzzing. Under some unknown influence, the insects in the courtyard rushed into the study, and then gathered towards the shadow like moths to a flame. At this time, the shadow had absorbed all the blood. Click. A ferocious bloody mouth appeared on the surface of the shadow, with sharp teeth rubbing left and right, directly swallowing thousands of insects. After eating, its bloody mouth turned into smoke and disappeared into the bone blade. Shen Lian didn't notice anything unusual. After the binding of the fundamental object was completed, he opened his eyes and checked the career panel for the first time, with great expectations for the warrior's supernatural powers. Occupation: Warrior, 0%. Question mark. Related: Bone Blade. Question mark. Magic Power, Food Supplement. Question mark. Food Supplement: slightly increase the digestive power of the stomach and intestines, slightly increase the capacity of the stomach and intestines. Is there any mistake? Shen Lian was stunned and almost threw the bone blade out of the window. Who could have thought that a warrior profession would awaken the power of a foodie? Food supplements. Does the profession panel assume that bone blades are ingredients? Using human bones as ingredients? Veins popped out on Shen Lian's forehead, and he felt helpless about the unreliability of the career panel. Then he comforted himself that warriors need to take strong medicines to practice, and the strength of their digestion actually determines their physique qualifications in a disguised way. How do warriors gain experience? They don't eat, do they? Shen Lian had a bad feeling. He hurried to the kitchen and ate a lot, but not only did the fruits and vegetables fail to trigger his career panel, but he also got nothing from the meat. You have no experience eating normal food, are you going to eat humans? Shen Lian wanted to cry but had no tears. At the same time, Wang Xin appeared in the alley behind the pawnshop, looking around with a frown on his face. There's a flash of new resentment. Things are really getting more and more uneasy. Also, there is a human skin scroll in the government office that can ward off evil spirits. I don't know which Taoist priest came to Yanliang town. Chapter 10, Baborban. Early the next morning. Before daybreak, Shen Lian planned to take advantage of the free time on his way to the martial arts gym to explore the magical power of food supplements, and left the pawnshop early. To ensure that the root is not damaged, the bone blade is hung around the neck with a cotton rope. The starling shivered and hid in his sleeve. Shen Lian took 2 steamed buns from the kitchen. After he swallowed the steamed bun, his food replenishing ability was naturally activated, and suddenly a weak warm current surged out from his stomach and intestines. I have to say, at least food supplements are more useful than wisdom eyes. With the support of food supplements, the steamed buns are quickly transformed into nutrients, which can not only replenish the consumed physical strength, but also dispel the cold. Pity. Shen Lian has not yet mastered the Zulong posture and is unable to use nutrients to hone himself. Dietary supplements are definitely a shortcut to martial arts. I can't imagine how a martial artist's magical powers will change after his career is promoted. Shen Lian shook his head. Last night he ate up all the food in the pawn shop's kitchen. Although he didn't gain any experience, he understood the rules of magical powers. Shen Lian discovered that raw food contains 30% more nutrients than cooked food. It should be that during the cooking process, the high temperature causes the nutrients in the ingredients to be lost. Do we have to eat raw meat and drink blood? Shen Lian could never accept this. He always felt that it went against what he wanted to pursue, but the career panel was so mysterious. Let's go to the morning market first. Maybe we can find a way to gain experience. Shen Lian swallowed the steamed bun. The nutrients brought by dietary supplements gradually act on the body, and even if the face is exposed, the skin temperature is still maintained at a suitable level. Mina shook his head and shouted at the top of his lungs, the divine power is perfected, and the world is unified. Screw you. Shen Lian stuffed the starling back into his sleeve and walked towards the morning market without stopping. He noticed that a large number of people had already gathered on the street. After not seeing it for half a month, the New Year atmosphere in the morning market has become more intense, and the shops are decorated with lights and decorations. Merchants from other places continue to come to Yanliang town, mainly to take advantage of Linchen's popularity, causing the scale of the morning market to increase rapidly every day. The businesses of pitching pots and catching rings appeared one after another, full of the flavor of life. But the dark side still exists. The spies of various gangs are spread all over the morning market, so how could they let go of the vendors' profits? Shen Lian felt a sense of urgency. If anything happened to Shen Hansheng, the gang would definitely have to intervene in the pawnshop. How long would the peaceful days last? At present, with Shen Hansheng's face, the pawnshop only pays a small fee every month. The gang occupying Hefeng Street seems to be called the Fulin Society. I hope Dad is okay. Shen Lian walked with his head down, and stopped whenever he saw snacks. How much are the candied haws? Sir, 1 penny a string. Shen Lian handed over the copper coin, took a bite of the candied haws, then turned around and left the stall. No experience. Sir, yam is the most nutritious food in winter. Shen Lian paid the copper coins without hesitation, peeled the yam and started chewing it. No experience. Wild ginseng with 10 years of medicinal value. Shen Lian was eating all the way, almost without stopping, and even the starling was covered in grease, while the purse in his arms became drier and drier. The career panel showed no response, which made him suspect that he was going in the wrong direction. This suspicion gradually deepened after Shen Lian tasted all kinds of mountain products. Could it be that a warrior's advancement has nothing to do with his food-nourishing abilities? When he had finished walking through most of the morning market and was about to go to the Tide Martial Arts School. What? Shen Lian stopped. He suddenly felt his mouth watering, as if his appetite was inexplicably aroused, and the bone blade against his skin on his chest also began to heat up slightly. Shen Lian swallowed and followed his instinct to walk to the stall on the corner. The stall was tattered, with a sign made of linen. Pickled herring. There are no big rivers around Yanliang town, and the aquatic products are all small fish and shrimp, so the locals are not interested in the so-called black carp. Have you heard of it? Pickled fish is a food for the New Year and other festivals in our village. The father-in-law smiled and took out a finger-sized salted fish from the earthen jar he was carrying. Immediately, a strange salty and sour smell rushed into my mouth and nose. The black carp is pickled with inferior salt, which causes its color to turn yellow and black. And the shape is weird. It was the first time that Shen Lian saw a fish fin with a pattern similar to a human eye. Try it. Shen Lian took the salted fish and looked at it carefully, but found nothing special about it. However, my appetite became stronger and stronger, as if there was a hungry ghost in my stomach constantly urging me to eat. What's your name, old man? The surname Ma, a single character, has a meaning. Ma Yi frowned, afraid of missing out on the few business opportunities today. Shen Lian hesitated for a few moments, then used his wisdom to see the subtle details. Salted small herring. Pickled by Ma Yi, the ingredients are 15-year-old bluefish. Due to the rough pickling method, the meat is slightly rotten and eating it can easily cause diarrhea. Closing square bracket. Shen Lian's eyelids twitched wildly, and the starling covered its beak in resistance. With the food supplement ability, a little rot shouldn't be a big deal. Shen Lian couldn't bear the appetite any longer, so he closed his eyes and threw the salted fish into his mouth, chewing it a few times, accompanied by a strong feeling of nausea. Even if you force yourself to swallow it, the nutrients provided by the salted fish are better than nothing. Shen Lian's expression was distorted. Well, I'm afraid you've retained some of the original flavor. Ma Yi took a few steps back. Shen Lian waved his hand, and a prompt appeared on the career panel at this time. Take salted small herring, warrior experience plus 0.2%. Hiss. Shen Lian took a breath of cold air. He didn't expect that this thing really had the experience of a warrior profession. Could it be that the basis of the profession panel is whether it tastes bad or not? Water. Shen Lian's voice was hoarse, and Ma Yi quickly brought him some clean water to help him suppress the discomfort. Are you okay, sir? Ma Yi was secretly frightened. Shen Lian continued to ask, panting heavily, it's okay. Do you have any other food that is not salted? Yes. The bigger herrings are used for curing. The taste of the cured fish is not that pungent, but it is unusually hard. When Shen Lian finished tasting the cured fish, a prompt appeared on his career panel, proving that the key to gaining warrior experience lies in the ingredients themselves. Take cured herring, warrior experience plus 0.4%. My dear father, where did this fish of yours come from? Seeing that Ma Yi was hesitant, Shen Lian directly took out dozens of copper coins. Not only will I take care of all the fish on your stall, but from now on, just send them to the Shen family pawnshop on Hefeng Street and I will take all the orders. Okay. Ma Yi was ecstatic. The meat of black carp is very delicate when alive, but it easily deteriorates and rots after death. This was the first time that Ma Yi tried to pickle it and sell it. He did not expect to find a stable livelihood in Yanliang town. To be honest, the black fish comes from a stream in the mountains, but the location is quite remote, more than 100 miles away from Yanliang town. It's okay, I just like this. My father-in-law sends a batch every once in a while. Don't salt it, let's make it cured. Ma Yi chuckled, sir, you are also a connoisseur of good things. I heard from the old man that the stream goes straight into the ground and stretches for thousands of miles. The source seems to be called. Ma Yi muttered a few words, and then added, yes, Bibotan. Bibotan. Shen Lian felt that it sounded familiar and took the fish wrapped in oil paper. And many more. Banborba, Baborban, those two cowards seem to be from Bibotan. Shen Lian smiled awkwardly and said to himself. The word Bai Bo is too common. Isn't the brothel in Dongcheng district also called Bai Bo Lu? But as long as there is a possibility, I feel creepy. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audiobook YouTube channel. Chapter 11. Shen Lian, I'm a late bloomer. After the two of them clarified the cured fish business, Shen Lian took Ma Yi back to the pawnshop. Although Mr. Wang was extremely puzzled by Shen Lian's purchase of the cured fish, he did not say much and determined the specific price with Ma Yi. After this precedent, Shen Lian was no longer limited to the morning market, but visited all the stalls selling food in Xicheng district. The results were mixed. There are indeed some scattered ingredients that provide experience, but unlike the bluefish in Bibotan, the rest of the ingredients are obtained by chance in the mountains. Still can't find any common ground. After a lot of hard work, Shen Lianwu's progress had just reached 5%. It's a pity that the morning market is only busy before the spring festival. If it were held every month, it wouldn't take long for warriors to be promoted smoothly. Shen Lian chewed the cured fish, and his taste buds had begun to adapt to the strange sour and smelly taste. The starling stands on the shoulder. Ah, what the hell is this? Even dogs won't eat it. Shen Lian gave him a middle finger implicitly. He rushed along the street to the Tide Martial Arts School and found that although the gang was no longer active, it was like a group of hungry wolves. It just didn't dare to make a big fuss about it due to the suppression of the government. When the curfew is lifted, Yanliang town will probably be in chaos for a while. Shen Lian asked Mr. Wang and learned that Fu Lin had deliberately inquired about Shen Hansheng's affairs before, and he must have realized that Shen Hansheng might be in danger. He narrowed his eyes and walked into the door of the martial arts hall while thinking. The children were practicing the standing method. When Bai Haibo noticed Shen Lian, he couldn't help but smell an indescribable strange smell. Shen Lian did not hide it and chewed the cured fish while walking. He even left the fish bones alone, grinding them into fine pieces with his teeth. Shen Lian burped. Well. Bai Haibo covered his mouth and nose, and smiled bitterly, wanting to say something but stopping himself. Master Bai, would you like to try some snacks from the market? No need. Shen Lian poured the remaining cured fish into his mouth, and his upper and lower jaws opened and closed continuously, making a sound similar to the grinding of sawdust, which aroused the curiosity of the child. He looked around the courtyard and saw that the children were all practicing the Zulong posture. It's just that the outer disciples didn't receive Bai Haibo's hands-on instruction, which resulted in their achieving their goals in tangible form but without any real intention. Shen Lian, please stand with your fellow disciples. Shen Lian put down the items he had purchased, followed the child's example, pressed his legs down, and secretly figured out the technique of horse stance. Bai Haibo was very concerned and immediately came to guide Shen Lian in standing still. Pull back the strength. The Zulong posture relies entirely on the tendons of the limbs. Bai Haibo lightly kicked Shen Lian's calf. Straighten your spine, bow your waist, calm your mind, and visualize a turbulent river in your mind. He corrected Shen Lian's movements bit by bit. Bai Haibo did not intend to hide anything, and explained in front of the registered disciples, you can't get personal instruction, but it doesn't mean you can't get started. If you persevere, there is always a chance that you can become a warrior. The children did not dare to hope for anything, but they knew that the opportunity was not to be missed, so they looked at Bai Haibo intently. External skills cultivate strength. Once your strength begins to grow, it means you have embarked on the journey of building your foundation, skin refining. Different external skills have different strengths. Our Zulong posture was created by our ancestors who visualized the ocean tides. The strength is generated by following the waves. It's called wave-chasing power. As Bai Haibo spoke, his skin rippled like water waves. Use standing still to sense the qi and blood, and then use the qi and blood to nurture the Zulong Jing. Remember not to be impatient in your practice, so as not to damage your foundation. One punch. The resulting strong winds were howling and the waves were undulating. The disciples were so full of themselves that only 4 people could barely stand in the courtyard. They had all reached the edge of skin refining. Among them, Guo Sainer, who was in his early teens, had the most outstanding bone talent. Unfortunately, his family was poor, and his martial arts career was destined to be full of difficulties. What? Bai Haibo showed a surprised look on his face. Shen Lian did not fall to the ground under the wind of punch. Shen Lian had his eyes tightly closed, looking as if he was in a trance. He was struggling to maintain the Zulang posture and didn't get the hang of it. But rather, Bai Haibo's pupils shrank slightly and he noticed that heat was coming out of Shen Lian's body. Shen Lian had already begun to sense the qi and blood by relying on such a clumsy standing posture. In Bai Haibo's opinion, this was simply unprecedented. It's simply because I have too much qi and blood, so I force myself to practice the stance method to refine my body. But where did Shen Lian get the energy and blood? Was it a natural gift? Or did he take some powerful medicine recently? Bai Haibo gave up the idea of taking strong medicine. Shen Lian had not mastered the strong medicine was no different from a deadly poison, and he would definitely not be able to take it. Shen Lian was also surprised. He hadn't expected that dietary supplements were so effective. His seemingly correct but ambiguous stance could promote nutrition and body refining. He would be glad to completely master the Zulong stance. Shen Lian adjusted the Zulong posture according to Bai Haibo's reminder. The nutrients were consumed very quickly, and in a moment, the stomach and intestines became empty again. Shen Lian winked at the starling, who curled his lips in disdain and stuffed the peanuts bought at the market into Shen Lian's mouth one by one. With the supplement of food, supernatural powers can also generate nutrients continuously. Bai Haibo realized that the reason why Shen Lian had abundant qi and blood was in his stomach and intestines. His stomach and intestines were like a melting pot that accepted everything. In a sense, Shen Lian's physique is also naturally special. However, his natural peculiarity did not cause any negative effects. Instead, it made his stomach and intestines just like those of cattle and sheep, able to drain the food in his stomach. With such talent, he only started practicing martial arts at the age of 16. Bai Haibo thought of the monsters and demons he had encountered before. Shen Lian's talent inevitably makes him more delicious. Once he sets foot in the martial arts world, he will attract the attention of demons and monsters if he is not careful. Good fortune and misfortune go hand in hand. Not every time you are in danger will the Jinwu guards come to your aid. Bai Haibo sighed deeply and guided Shen Lian more carefully. The complexity of Zulong posture lies in the fact that the strength of the muscles of the four limbs is different, and it must be coordinated with the breathing frequency, otherwise the effect will be very different. In addition to practicing martial arts, Shen Lian has been paying attention to the career panel. As a result, the Zulong posture has not been revealed for a long time, which shows that mastering the posture method is not something that can be achieved overnight. I kind of miss the days of just hanging up the machine. Bai Haibo watched Shen Lian swallowing food, then turned around and returned to the lobby of the martial arts hall. After a while, Bai Haibo brought a bowl of turbid wine that smelled of medicine. Shen Lian, try the medicinal wine I made using more than 10 kinds of medicinal herbs. Shen Lian used his keen eyes to see the slightest details without leaving any trace, and only drank the whole wine in one gulp after making sure that there was no problem with it. Immediately, nutrients far beyond the ordinary burst out. Hiss. The nutritional value of a bowl of medicinal wine is even more obvious than 10 kilograms of raw meat. My disciple, you have extraordinary talent. You can use medicinal food or medicinal wine to assist in your martial arts training. He explained to himself. The great medicine is made from medicinal materials that are more than 100 years old and refined into pills. It's different with medicinal food and wine. The medicinal materials involved are generally less than 10 years old. The medicinal properties complement each other. With your stomach and intestines, it should be able to reach 1/10 or 2/10 the level of the big medicine. Bai Haibo also handed over a handwritten copy of Zulongjuang, asking Shen Lian to read it when he was home. Shen Lian did not reply. Because as soon as he took the manuscript, the profession panel reacted. Do you want to spend 1 point to master the wave-chasing pile? Chapter 12. Add some more and it's done. Shen Lian came to his senses, hesitated for a long time, and did not spend any points. On the one hand, the pile method can be mastered in a short period of time, and on the other hand, the points are really precious. Even if Shen Lian finished eating the pickled fish on hand, his warrior career progress would not exceed 10%, but at least it shows that the career panel is useful. Shen Lian once suspected that the golden finger was just a facade. Bai Haibo told Shen Lian about the advantages and disadvantages of medicinal food and medicinal wine. Shen Lian was inspired and thought that perhaps only medicinal prescriptions could bring out the digestive power of food supplements. Shen Lian quickly put it into practice and asked Fugi to help acquire the formula. If it was the recipe for a major medicine, it could not be exchanged for even 1,000 taels of silver, but medicated food and medicinal wine were not rare and were available in ordinary restaurants. While Shen Lian was studying food supplements in depth, he also did not neglect martial arts. And he also paid attention to the corpse stripping case. The progress of the corpse stripping case is a bit strange. The government office has not found Zhu Sangxing yet, but the Jinwu guards are reducing the scope of the curfew in Xicheng district. Including Hefeng Street, there are now only 4 streets under curfew. At night, a large number of yamen runners were stationed on the streets, completely catching turtles in a jar, without any concern for the mobility of people. Why do they think the 3 elements will stay where they are? The progress of the corpse stripping case is unclear, but fortunately Shen Lian's martial arts training is going well, and the faint presence of Zhu Lang Zhuang can be seen on his career panel. The sky was bright. Without Bai Haibo's reminder, the disciples had already started practicing the Zulong posture, and Bai Jinbao was also secretly observing them practicing martial arts. All the children were gritting their teeth and persevering, relying on the Zulong pillar to hone their bodies. Sweat condensed into frost crystals on the ground. In the courtyard, only Shen Lian seemed out of place. Although Shen Lian was also practicing martial arts, his naked upper body was slightly red, his muscles were beginning to take shape, and heat was rising from his pores. But next to him was a smoking stove with a casserole stewing on it. The unique aroma of medicinal food is overflowing. What are you looking at? Have you never seen Master Ba cooking? Ah. From time to time, the starling would open the casserole and throw specific herbs into it, with precise timing that would cause the children to raise their eyes and take a peek. Shen Lian tried different medicinal foods over the past few days and finally chose Dangshan black chicken soup. Medicinal food contains 50% more nutrients than raw food. After various medicinal materials are cooked, the medicinal power of the whole thing is greater than the sum of its parts. Medicinal wine can also be brewed, but it takes more than half a year to settle. Shen Lian felt that the nutrients in his stomach were slowing down, so he stopped standing. He sat down on the spot, and started drinking soup around the stove in front of everyone. He also served a bowl to the starling. His fellow apprentices were already used to it. Only Bai Haibo opened his mouth slightly, as if he wanted to say something but hesitated. Unexpectedly, after Shen Lian received the suggestion of medicinal diet, he became completely addicted to drinking soup and would burn a clay pot every 2 or 3 days. Shen Lian rested for a long time, and then took a short nap at noon as usual. Then he took up the stance of the wave-chasing pile. It has some charm now. Bai Haibo was astonished at how quickly Shen Lian mastered the Zulang posture, having learned it in just 7 days. Little did he know that the state of playing badly was what suited Shen Lian's state of mind. If the latter was allowed to practice martial arts day and night, he would be unable to make any progress. Shen Lian slowly closed his eyes. The muscles vibrate with the breathing, and an unfamiliar force is growing in the body. Good. Bai Haibo nodded. The tail of the turtle raises the qi, the dantian concentrates the mind, the qi descends to the sea, and the light gathers at the center of the sky. Bai Haibo picked up the well water and poured it on Shen Lian's back. Shen Lian did not lose his composure because of this, his qi and blood became active to resist the cold. The pores open and close, and the body fully absorbs the nutrients brought by the medicinal food. At the same time, he discovered that dietary supplements have hidden benefits. Shen Lian's tolerance to cold is gradually increasing. The effects of taking pickled fish are probably similar. He, a landlubber who had never learned to swim in both his lifetimes, unexpectedly, while taking a bath in the bathtub, he felt the joy of a fish swimming into the sea. This shows that the nature of water has changed a lot, and dietary supplements may even nourish the brain. Shen Lian stood in the stance for 2 hours in a row. The sun was rising in the sky and the nutrients from the medicinal food had been exhausted, so he should stop the Zulong stance. He still stood there, his mind immersed in the chasing waves pile. Bai Haibo understood that Shen Lian had seized the invisible opportunity and mastered the timing of the chasing waves pile, more than a month earlier than expected. Drink. Starting from Shen Lian's eyebrows, his skin rippled like ripples on the water. The blood flow is accelerating. Shen Lian took a deep breath, and a faint force traveled through the 8 extraordinary meridians. Part of the qi and blood was integrated into the force, until the force returned to the lower dantian. He opened his eyes and felt the wave-chasing power in his lower dantian. The force is a bit mixed, just a strand as thick as a hair. It is too weak to be used against the enemy. My disciple, have you already refined your skin? Bai Haibo was incredulous, as if the strength he sensed from Shen Lian was just an illusion. He had never seen anyone achieve skin refining while mastering the stance method. Maybe, Bai Haibo explained, when you have strength added to your body, it is considered as refining the skin. Once you have polished your skin to perfection, you can break through to refining the flesh. He didn't know what to say, and his dull expression made Shen Lian suspicious. Shen Lian secretly sighed that his talent was indeed too poor. In the end, I still have to rely on the golden finger to make up for it. Shen Lian summoned the career panel. Shen Lian. Realm. Foundation building, skin refining. Martial arts, chasing waves, first look. Points, 19. Occupation, 9-yeared Chaofeng 2.13%. Related, Mina bird, supernatural power, wisdom eyes that see the subtleties. Occupation, warrior 8.2%. Related, bone blade. Magic power, food supplement. If Bai Haibo had not been there, Shen Lian would definitely have tried to advance to the Zulong post again. Master Bai, what kind of fighting style does Tide Martial Arts School excel at? The so-called fighting style refers to the use of fists, feet or weapons to exert force. Tide strike fist. How long does it take to master martial arts? Bai Haibo thought for a few breaths and said uncertainly, with your talent and understanding, you can learn it in about a year. It is good. Shen Lian gave up the right path and looked up. The sky is covered with dark clouds and the weather may change at any time. Master Bai, do you have a handwritten copy? Indeed. Bai Haibo brought the manuscript and Shen Lian reached out to take it and glanced at it. Do you want to spend 1 point to master the Tide Strike Fist? Yes. Shen Lian consumed points efficiently, and a large amount of related memories flooded into his mind. The techniques of using the Tide Strike Fist were engraved in his bones. Next, just add some more and you're done. He waved his hand and Bai Haibo's expression became dazed. Why did the movements resemble the Tide Strike Fist? Impossible. Shen Lian simply flipped through the secret book after getting it. Master Bai, it's getting late. I'll leave first. Okay. Bai Haibo noticed the dark clouds and couldn't help but think of the skin ghost he had encountered before. He didn't know what the curfew was blocking. He watched Shen Lian leave. Not long after we left, inexplicable heavy rain fell on Yanliang town. Bai Haibo looked worried. The pawn shop was actually not far from the martial arts hall, but it was raining heavily and Shen Lian might have to walk at night. Don't let anything unexpected happen. A martial artist who has just started to refine skins is simply a snack for demons and monsters. Chapter 13. There's a ghost, I'm hungry too. As soon as he left the martial arts gym, Shen Lian couldn't wait to call out his career panel. Martial arts, chasing waves, first glimpse, striking tide fist, first glimpse. When he focused his attention on the wave-chasing pile, a prompt suddenly appeared on the career panel. Do you want to consume 2 points to upgrade your martial arts, chasing waves, minor success? Haha. Shen Lian couldn't help but let out a strange laugh, and the starling also started to cackle. The noise made by the man and the bird was more devilish than that of a demon. Let's give it a try first. Because of the corpse stripping case, the whole city was in a state of panic and every household kept their doors and windows closed. Don't worry about attracting attention. Shen Lian did not hesitate and invested 2 points into the Zulong pile. As for points, although we should save them when necessary, if we spend 1 or 2 years standing still and practicing martial arts all day long just to save points, it is really putting the cart before the horse. After a few breaths. Wave chasing pile, small success. Why is there no reaction to my strength? Could it be that the promotion to minor success did not cause any qualitative change? At least you should have some shit sprayed out of your pores, huh? Shen Lian stopped where he was and stretched out his arm with foresight. Dark clouds cover the sky. The cold wind blew, and raindrops began to fall in an instant. Shen Lian raised his palm and caught the soybean-sized water droplets. The wave-chasing power in his dantian surged along his meridians and then burst out from his palm. The wave-chasing force drags the water droplets, and under the action of the force, they roll irregularly. Go with. Shen Lian changed his palm into a fist and punched. Whoosh! The water droplets flew out and hit the wall not far away, breaking the loose bricks into pieces, showing the power of the wave-chasing force. The wave-chasing force is characterized by being like the waves in the ocean. The key is to accumulate without releasing, and the power will become stronger as it accumulates. Bai Haibo did not deceive Shen Lian. When the wave-chasing power was placed in the lake or sea, it was powerful enough to stir up water vapor and add a lot of changes. The tide-beating boxing technique also complements the wave-chasing force. In terms of lethality, the tide strike fist is definitely not outstanding among many fighting styles, but the advantage of the tide strike fist is that its moves are continuous. As long as the wave-chasing force is not exhausted, the power of the tide strike boxing will become stronger and stronger. I'm still short of light skills. Well, I also need to master hard qigong. Shen Lian smiled. Looking at the career panel again, the requirement for the Zulong pillar to be promoted to great success has increased to 5 points. I feel that with the points I have accumulated, I can continue to advance to the wave-chasing pile twice at least. Shen Lian couldn't help but feel eager to try. He didn't have the habit of saving money in his previous life, so it was inevitable that he wanted to spend all his points. Before he could take any action, his heartbeat suddenly increased. The blood washes through the dantian, and the originally turbid Zulongjin gradually becomes clear. When it is still, it is like water waves, and the total amount also increases slightly. It turns out that the advancement of Zulong posture not only deepens one's comprehension, but also drives the transformation of one's strength. Shen Lian staggered a few steps forward. The Zulong energy in dantian is as thick as fingers. It flows through the meridians, making the skin slightly itchy, and is invisibly refining the skin. Shen Lian was overjoyed, as the advancement of the stance method was related to the efficiency of practice. He quietly waited for Zulongjin to transform, ignoring the rain that soaked his clothes. Instead, the starling hid under the eaves not far away while cursing. But Shen Lian had a strange expression on his face. He had just finished using Zulongjin. An indescribable hunger occupied his brain and his mouth kept secreting saliva. So fucking hungry. Strength is nurtured by qi and blood, and the improvement of the professional panel is obviously not made up out of thin air. Consumption of qi and blood is inevitable. Shen Lian quickly took out the dry food he had brought with him and stuffed it into his mouth without swallowing. Dry food is transformed into nutrients, but it only has a drop in the bucket effect. Shen Lian's eyes were red, and he looked around hungrily, even lingering on the starling for a few seconds, causing the latter to scream. Ah, bastard, Master Ba doesn't have half a pound of meat. Shen Lian ran fast against the strong wind, unconsciously activating the wave-chasing force. On the cold, damp and rainy night, his force was extremely active. It rained heavily. The rain turned to torrential rain in just a few minutes. People rushed to return home. After all, the rain and snow in the deep winter of December were like a sharp knife scraping flesh, and even young and middle-aged people were very likely to catch a cold. Unlike the deserted streets, candles are always lit inside the yamen. All the yamen runners wore conical hats, drew their swords from their waists, and gathered in groups of 2 or 3, heading towards the center of Xicheng district. The 2 Jinwu guards, wearing light armor, walked on the roof as if it were flat ground. No matter how heavy the rain was, it could not wet the tips of their hair. An invisible force blocked the water droplets outside, and a murderous atmosphere filled the air. Kill the painted skin ghost tonight. Not long after the yamen runners surrounded Xicheng district, the heavy rain suddenly stopped for unknown reasons. Immediately, thick fog rose. Zhu Yihong came to the corner of Hefeng Street, followed closely by Wang Xin. The two of them lowered their heads and discussed the matter of killing ghosts, their breathing becoming rapid. After a few days of clearing, how many ghosts are still hiding in Yanliang town? 1 or 2 at most. Zhu Yihong added fearfully, the surviving skin ghosts are extremely intelligent. Through cannibalism, they have reached a level of over 100, making them difficult to find. Wang Xin took out a talisman that was slowly burning, and only 1/10 or 1/12 of it was left. The alchemist's heavenly talisman can only bring about a momentary heavy rain. Now that the waning moon has not yet risen, it is the best opportunity to deal with the painted skin ghost. After the heavy rain stopped, the dark clouds gradually began to dissipate. Another sunset covered Yanliang town. Zhu Yihong knew that now was the time when Yangqi was not yet dead and Yinqi was just beginning to be born. Even a 1,000-year-old ghost would be greatly weakened. If they don't seize the opportunity, they won't be able to take out the second celestial talisman. Wang Xin and the other man looked at each other in silence. Then he signaled the Yamen runners to set off immediately, and their swords were smeared with the black dog blood of the middle-aged man. At the same time, an alley close to the outskirts of Hefeng Street. Selling rice cakes with red bean paste filling. A hoarse, old voice echoed. There was a newly set up stall in the corner, and a string of copper bells hanging on the door rang in the wind. The stall owner was a woman. Her shriveled body seemed to have no flesh and bones to support it. In her hands, she held a strange rice cake that was as black as ink. The woman was obviously a ghost in disguise. She knew the danger, but the ghost's desire for blood was hard to control. Guests are coming. Children, come out and welcome them. The woman smiled and opened an earthen jar, from which came out stacked human skins. After being injected with resentment, the human skins took on the appearance of the diners. Once the diners have chosen their seats, there is no longer any discernible difference. Once a skin ghost has practiced for 100 years, it can create puppets using human skin, just like a lanternfish using its tentacles to fish for prey. Attract more people to come. Come here, rice cakes, freshly baked rice cakes. Some diners were praising the taste of the rice cakes, while others were complaining about the high prices or discussing the bad things that had happened to them a few days ago. In addition, the resentment of the skin ghost can confuse the mind and there is no flaw at all. Someone. The woman turned her head and stared at the figure in the darkness. Pat. The footsteps are from far to near. Shen Lian arrived at the entrance of the alley and swallowed his saliva. His magical powers seemed to sense food that far exceeded pickled fish, and the aroma made his hunger grow. He is hungry. Bone Blade is hungry too. Chapter 14. Demon. Just my snack. It's strange. One moment it's bright, the next it's dark. Shen Lian suppressed his hunger and looked up at the sky, noticing that the setting sun had dispersed the dark clouds and it would take at least another hour before curfew. There were also shops in Xicheng district that did not close. After all, the heavy rain came and went quickly. The woman's eyes moved. Some of the diners pretended to complain and began to pack up their things to go home. The woman echoed a few words, waved to Shen Lian and said, "Sir, the rice cakes are still hot. I will leave after I sell them all." When the steamer is opened, the unique aroma of glutinous rice fills the air. Shen Lian kept drooling and the bones in his chest felt hot. He realized that rice cakes should be able to provide a warrior profession. When the Bone Blade first encountered pickled fish, its reaction was not so violent. "Oh, there's definitely enough time to fill my stomach before curfew. Mina, please keep an eye on the outside." The starling didn't say anything more. It spread its wings and flew to the top of the roof near the eaves. It tilted its head and looked at the woman with deep eyes. "Madam, one drawer first." Shen Lian deliberately sat next to the entrance and waved to the woman to bring the rice cake. "I'm coming." The woman still smiled as she covertly put the black rice into the steamer. Invisible resentment poured into it, and rice cakes were formed in a moment. After a living person eats rice cake, resentment will corrode his body and soul, and he will become a puppet of the skin ghost. "Guest, please have a taste." The woman brought the steamer to Shen Lian's table. Mi Gao's resentment was overwhelming, but Shen Lian didn't notice it at all. The woman's greed could not be restrained. The other party was indeed an ordinary mortal. The Jinwu guards would not let the resentment get close to them to prevent them from being possessed by ghosts. "Eat, eat." The woman returned to the stall and covered her mouth with her hands and chuckled. Everything seemed to be going unusually smoothly. She seemed to be able to hear Shen Lian's screams before his death. The latter's abundant blood and energy was worth at least 5 years of Taoism. "You are so polite, madam. Next time, please set up your stall at the morning market. There are more people there." Shen Lian couldn't wait to pick up a piece of rice cake and then used his wisdom to see the details as usual. Rice cake identification successful, court experience plus 0.42%. Rice cake. Made by Sun Tang, the ingredients are aged black rice, and it goes through 3 cooking processes. Closing square bracket. At the moment the identification is completed. What? The woman covered her head. The pain came without warning. She stared at Shen Lian in disbelief. The resentment in the steamer sizzled, then uncontrollably drilled into Shen Lian's mouth and nose and disappeared. Who is this, evildoer? The skin ghost, as the source of the resentment, will inevitably be hurt. Shen Lian nodded with satisfaction. What frightened the woman was that she could not see through Shen Lian's methods from beginning to end. Wasn't the latter a warrior who had just started to practice skin refining? The rice cakes looked good. Shen Lian noticed that the woman was paying attention to him and gave her a thumbs up. Since the information about the rice cakes fed back by Jianwei Haoyan showed nothing unusual, he put his concerns aside. At least it showed that the rice cakes were edible. Shen Lian had done experiments before. If a highly toxic substance is added to food ingredients, no matter how much the poison is, a keen eye can easily identify it and mark the pros and cons. He has long developed the good habit of making appraisals at will. When the woman saw Shen Lian stuffing the rice cake into his mouth, she murmured to herself, "You can't be a demon, absolutely not. It must be the talisman protecting me. It doesn't matter. Any mortal who eats the sacrifice will surely die." The so-called sacrifice usually refers to food that has been eroded by resentment. Even if the evil spirits are warded off in time, the sacrifices will still become tasteless and difficult for mortal stomachs to digest, leading to organ failure. Shen Lian's face changed. The old woman breathed a sigh of relief. How could a demon disguise itself as a mortal so vividly? Just as the thought came to his mind, Shen Lian muttered, "It tastes terrible. No wonder we have to set up a stall in the alley. No one will come to the morning market." Shen Lian gritted his teeth and swallowed it down his throat. The rice cakes had no flavor at all and tasted like chewing soap. Take black rice cake, warrior experience plus 1.6%. Shen Lian was a little helpless, but he had a lot of experience. It seemed that no matter how bad the food tasted, he couldn't let the old lady down. Well, there's an unexpected bonus. The rice cakes are digested by the food supplement, and nutrients are slowly grown in the stomach. Unlike pickled fish, perhaps because the rice cake is relatively fresh, it contains more nutrients than medicinal wine and is truly a tonic. The nutrients make up for the deficit caused by the upgrade of the Zulong pile, and even have a certain surplus. I don't know where they got the ingredients. Shen Lian quickly devoured the remaining rice cake. His warrior progress had exceeded 10%, and he successfully earned the first point since taking office. Nutrients are stored in the stomach and intestines and cannot be absorbed by Zulongjing alone. Shen Lian was sweating profusely, with hot air coming out of his pores. That was a sign that nutrients were being lost quickly, leaving only a little left for refining his skin. Is he a human or a ghost? The woman felt as if she was sitting on pins and needles, and her teeth were chattering. She was clearly the ghost, but she felt genuine fear. The man with an ordinary appearance was completely beyond her cognition. "Madam, do you have any more rice cakes?" Shen Lian stood up and walked towards the woman, while calling out his profession panel. "Do you want to consume 5 points to upgrade your martial arts, Chasing Waves Great Mastery?" There are abundant nutrients here. If I don't take advantage of the opportunity to add more, I will be sorry for the accumulated points. Sure. The blue bricks under Shen Lian's feet shattered into pieces, and his understanding of Zulong Jin was further improved. His mind was filled with various techniques of using Jin. With every step, water splashed on the ground. However, under the effect of the wave-chasing force, the water droplets stayed suspended in the air for half a breath, and then hit the wall not far away at the speed of a bow. Walk 10 meters. Shen Lian's qi and blood were restrained, and his Zulong Jin was transformed again. The strength no longer has obvious impurities, and water ripples have been derived. The total amount has increased by more than 3 times, and it is automatically polishing the skin all over the body. The woman sensed the alluring aura emanating from Shen Lian, but did not dare to react at all. Shen Lian stabilized his wave-chasing power, his muscles bulged slightly, and his delicate skin looked like the group of sea dwellers who occasionally passed by Yanliang town. He subconsciously touched his neck and found a circle of scales growing on the vital part. After all, you can't escape from the special. Fortunately, Shen Lian's scales are not obvious, and unlike Bai Haibo, his effects will only show when he is using the Zulong force. He returned his strength to his dantian, and the scales disappeared into his skin. "Madam, please bring as many rice cakes as you can, so that we can close the stall earlier." The despair in the woman's eyes turned into resentment. The rice cake was the result of her fundamental resentment. Shen Lian's request was no different from taking away her cultivation. Ah! The starling showed a wise look. The woman froze in place. The bone blade on Shen Lian's chest felt hot, and then extremely thick black gas surged. A 2-meter-long bloody mouth was faintly visible in the black air, the bright teeth flashed coldly, and the long and narrow tongue licked the lips. Click click click. Shen Lian touched the bone blade and found that the blade had already returned to normal. It doesn't matter if the rice cakes are sold out. Do you know where the black rice comes from? The woman trembled and lowered her head to fiddle with it. That black rice is a specialty of my hometown. Sir, please go back to your seat first. I will make the rice cake and serve it to you right away. Oh, what a pity. Chapter 15. Mr. Shen is kind-hearted. Shen Lian felt very sorry. When asked about the specific location, the woman was vague and only said that the black rice was brought by relatives at the market during the new year and was almost sold out. Clack clack. The woman could sense the saliva dripping from his bloody mouth, and was shrouded in horrible murderous intent. How could she dare to question why Shen Lian asked the question even though she already knew the answer? Seeing that the skin ghost was no longer a threat, the bloody mouth turned into black smoke and sank into the bone blade. Shen Lian seemed to have turned back into an ordinary warrior. But in the woman's eyes, Shen Lian was just a big demon disguised as a mortal. Not long after, more than a dozen steamers were brought in. Shen Lian looked at the woman who was staggering. The latter kept coughing weakly and thought that it was because of the cold weather that she contracted a stubborn disease. Hey, he couldn't help but feel pity. Madam, since all the rice cakes have been sold out, you should pack up and leave early. It will. The old woman remained where she was. She knew one thing very well: if a tiger let its prey go, it was definitely not out of kindness but because it wanted to stretch its muscles. Shen Lian clasped his fists in gesture and deliberately left a few more pieces of silver on the table. There's nothing I can do. I, Mr. Shen, am kind-hearted. The starling held it in for a long time, then shouted in a shrill voice, "Ah, as the saying goes, Shen Lian does good deeds, and the cool weather makes for a great autumn." Neuropathy. Shen Lian glanced at the starling that deserved a beating, and then identified the rice cakes one by one. The woman's expression was dull, and her coughing became loud and rapid. She watched helplessly as most of her resentment was swallowed up by Shen Lian. Puff. Vomiting black blood from the mouth. The woman was afraid of disturbing Shen Lian's fun, so she tried to cover up the injury even though it was serious. Due to the lack of resentment, its intelligence has shown signs of declining. It is all thanks to the heavy yin energy in the alley, otherwise it would have inevitably returned to its original form. 9-eared Chaofeng reaches 10.02%, martial arts points +2. Shen Lian was not surprised to see that the points rewarded by the 9-eared court official had increased. After all, the experience required had increased tenfold. I just sigh that I am so lucky. It took him 2 or 3 years to accumulate experience for promotion to Chaofeng, and now, in just a short time, Zhuor Chaofeng already has signs of further promotion. Since there are still enough points, continue to advance to the chasing waves pile. Do you want to consume 10 points to advance to martial arts, chasing waves perfect? Shen Lian now has a surplus of 14 points, so it is not a waste to use them to upgrade the Zulong pillar. The perfect level of the pillar method is helpful in building the foundation of the fourth realm. Sure, Shen Lian was mentally prepared, but was still caught off guard. If the promotion to great success is just a minor one, then the promotion to perfection has the flavor of a raging storm, and the wave-chasing force directly riots. Shen Lian's bones made strange noises, and his breathing sounded like the beating of drums. Boom! The bench broke under the weight, and wood chips scattered everywhere. Shen Lian was not careful and his legs sank into the soil. Fortunately, he controlled his strength in time and the black rice cakes on the table did not get stuck in his tracks. Don't worry, old lady. It's inevitable for us martial artists to leak our strength. Don't worry, I will compensate for the damaged tables and chairs. Shen Lian didn't care whether the woman responded or not, his stomach was already rumbling like thunder. The wave-chasing force actually turned into a whirlpool within the dantian. He quickly swallowed the black rice cake, which provided nutrients for his strength transformation. The improvement in strength is not obvious, but the quality has been significantly improved. There is no trace of impurities and the texture appears to be a trickle. I'm afraid the power of the advanced stance is just this. The Zulong force continued to polish the skin. Shen Lian estimated that with the current body refining effect of the force, he would be able to start refining the flesh in about 10 days. I told you, with the golden finger, there's no need to practice martial arts so hard. Shen Lian swept his elbow, and the scar left by the original owner was slowly fading away. With the protection of Zulong power, the wound would not bleed profusely in the future. He cut his chest with the bone blade, and a white mark appeared on the surface of the skin, proving that the skin was strong enough to withstand the impact of ordinary sharp weapons. It's a pity that my strength is still not obvious. After all, strength increases only when you build up your muscles. Shen Lian was smug. His warrior career progress had reached 78% without him noticing, and his points had returned to 10. Kindness. At this time, there was noise coming from the street not far away. You can hear dozens of people fighting. Not only are weapons clashes, but there is also thick smoke and the wind is filled with the smell of blood. The corpse stripping case. Shen Lian realized that the government was encircling and suppressing the three groups. The strength of the three branches is truly formidable. The government has the advantage in numbers, and with the assistance of the Jinwu guards, they did not lose immediately. Eat it quickly, or else you might end up hurting others. Shen Lian swallowed faster, and the steamers became empty. As a skin ghost, the woman also knew that Zhu Sangxing was nearby, and soon she felt it intuitively in another way. Ah! The woman looked in pain. An unfamiliar resentment invaded his body, and then the skin on his forehead began to wriggle, and a strange and inexplicable ghost face grew out. The ghost face was ugly, and it was clearly the 3 lines on the arrest warrant. No, 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 don't kill me, Ghost Lord, don't kill me. After the painted skin ghost gives birth to the skin bag ghost, it can control their life and death in disguise, and directly plunder the skin bag ghost's resentment to replenish itself. The woman also noticed that the painted skin ghost was very weak. The painted skin ghost naturally disliked the skin ghost whose resentment had run out. He looked around and saw the starling that landed on the top of the eaves and looked around. Black smoke was coming out of the starling's beak, and because there was no way to conceal its scent, the painted skin ghost could tell at a glance that the starling was definitely a monster. It can divert disaster away. There was a tremendous resentment in the air that turned into a blurry face with deformed facial features, especially the weird flat nose, which clearly looked like a guinea pig. The painted skin ghost was rushing towards the alley, and suddenly the wind was howling. Far from showing any fear, the starling tilted its head with interest. Ah! The woman looked up instinctively, and saw the starling opening its beak eagerly, with a scarlet light flashing, looking extremely ferocious. Boom! Endless black smoke was venting. Compared with the bloody mouth, the appearance of the 9-eared demon is nothing. The black smoke was filled with countless distorted human figures, with skinny arms waving at the edge, and then a gigantic 9-eared demon walked out. Roar! The 9-eared demon is made of darkness, but the threat it brings is as real as substance. The painted skin ghost's resentment stagnated. He realized that the 9-eared demon had been practicing for 1,000 years. In his current state, he would surely die if facing the 9-eared demon. The painted skin ghost withdrew his resentment and changed direction, choosing to stay away from the alley. The 9-eared demon swung its tail impatiently and disappeared into the darkness. Hiccup! Shen Lian burped suddenly. Old lady, listen to my advice and go home right now. The government is besieging the criminals. Although we are a little far away, it is better to be careful. Shen Lian didn't want to join in the fun at the government office, so he got up and returned to the pawnshop. The woman's face showed resentment. She said that the loss of Taoism can be made up by eating humans. Since the 9-eared demon has no intention of letting go of her remaining resentment. Woo! A low roar was sounded, and the blood-red eyes inched closer to the corner. The iconic 9 ears flapped, and a fierce aura rushed towards him. When the 9-eared demon saw the painted skin ghost running away, he had to settle for the next best thing. The skin ghost had no time to react and was torn into pieces by the sharp claws. The rest of the human skin puppets were torn into pieces one after another, and the remains piled up in the corner. Ah! The myna bird smacked its lips, and the 9-eared demon disappeared again. The alley fell into deathly silence. Subscribe to Chinese Novel Audiobook YouTube channel. Chapter 16. Martial Arts, the more the better. The fighting in the alleys was just an interlude. The government was still encircling and suppressing the painted skin ghost, and the violent noises caused by it echoed in the empty streets. Anyone in Xicheng district can faintly hear it. There will be no sleep tonight. Fortunately, the Jinwu guards intentionally avoided residential areas, so no major damage was caused. It lasted for several hours before the movement to encircle and suppress the ghosts came to an abrupt end, and the resentment that shrouded Hefeng Street showed signs of dissipating. The painted skin ghost was killed by the government near the morning market. The tragic situation can be seen from the devastated streets. The ground and walls are covered with potholes of various sizes, and the grass and trees have withered. The mutilated bodies of 12 Yamen runners were covered with white cloth and placed at the entrance of the morning market. The other Yamen runners had no time to collect the body and were carefully dealing with the remains of the painted skin ghost. Pieces of human skin fell everywhere. The painted skin ghost had been shattered into pieces, but the remains still retained some life, and the fragments of human skin were wriggling slightly, trying to reassemble themselves. The bailiff held a compass, determined the location of the human skin, and then wrapped it with yellow paper. Demons are like centipedes, which will remain intact even after death. If one wants to completely kill the demon, the alchemist must exorcise the demon. Depending on the strength of the demon, exorcism may take several years. However, the Jinwu guards were not in the morning market. At the same time, in an alley a few streets away from the morning market, Wang Xin and Zhu Yihong had solemn expressions. In front of them was the twisted and hideous corpse of a skin ghost, and the corpse's resentment was fully expressed. What surprised them most was that there was a giant claw mark 2 or 3 meters long on the wall. Wang Xin and the other man couldn't help but feel a lingering fear. In order to encircle and suppress the painted skin ghost, the government office has been making preparations for several months, even resorting to using celestial talismans, but the process is far from smooth. When the painted skin ghost appeared, a terrifying demon interfered. There are at least 2 demons. One has been in existence for about 500 years, and the other has been in existence for more than 1,000 years. We must take them seriously. Zhu Yihong's long hair was withered, and the injuries on her neck revealed her bones, but after taking powerful medicine, the wounds were repairing themselves little by little with granulation tissue. Wang Xin became extremely thin and his skin was covered with burns. 1,000-year-old demon, damn it, where did this 1,000-year-old demon come from? Zhu Yihong felt that the situation was very difficult, and Wang Xin said in a deep voice, since the source of the talisman has not been found, it may have left Yanliang town. Wang Xin knew that there was another possibility. The demon has been lurking in Yanliang town for thousands of years, and its disguise methods are extremely sophisticated. Wang Xin shook his head and continued, when I take the painted skin ghost to the capital to ward off evil spirits, I will report the matter regarding the 1,000-year-old demon in Yanliang town. Zhu Yihong hurriedly asked, Wang Xin, could it be that he is similar to the painted skin ghost and also comes from that place in Gaojia town? I don't know. Wang Xin shook his head, took out the medicine from his arms and swallowed it. The most urgent task is to prevent Gaojia town from affecting Yanliang town. The 1,000-year-old demon is not within the scope of consideration. Well, you also have to pay attention to that group of warriors and don't let them jump too much. It is good. The two were silent, the oppressive feeling brought by the 1,000-year-old demon seemed real. Shen Lian, the instigator, has returned safely to the pawnshop. Mr. Wang and his friends couldn't sleep at all, so they just stayed in the lobby. They were shocked to see Shen Lian coming back at this time. The latter greeted them heartlessly and went to the side room to rest. Shen Lian lay on the bed and immediately called out his career panel. Latest painting appraisal is successful, 9-year courtesan experience plus 0.83%. Apparently, during his promotion to the Zulong pile, the starling picked up garbage again. Shen Lian, realm, foundation building, skin refining. Martial arts, chasing waves perfect, striking tide fist, first glimpse. Points, 10, occupation, 9-year Chaofeng, 11.08%. Occupation, warrior, 78.2%. Mina, you are so brave. The starling glanced at Shen Lian with contempt, then flew to the beam and spread its wings. Shen Lian no longer paid attention to the starling, but secretly pondered his own gains. When he consciously communicated with the Zulong force, the first thing he felt was smoothness. That's right, the force seemed to be something he was born with. The wave-like force constantly flows through the meridians, and it does look somewhat like ocean waves. Shen Lian noticed it subtly. You don't need to maintain a standing posture, the Zulong force can also polish your body. With a thought, your skin will appear with barely noticeable ripples. However, according to Bai Haibo, the stance must be performed in the form of a horse stance in order to train the body. The perfect wave-chasing pillar is so mysterious. Shen Lian realized that achieving perfection in martial arts meant complete mastery, just like eating and drinking, and was no longer limited to standing still. He then assumed the stance of the wave-chasing pile. After observing the efficiency of standing still to cultivate the body, it was found that it was 30% more effective. 30% is within the acceptable range. I don't need to practice martial arts all day long. I can fully implement the Zulong posture in every move. Since you can practice martial arts while lying down, why do you need to stand? Only. When Shen Lian thought of Tai, the joy on his face faded. The special effect brought by the perfect wave-chasing posture became more obvious. Fortunately, as long as he did not use all his strength, it would not be revealed at all. Now the scales on the neck have spread to the chest. The scales are silvery white, inconspicuous, and as strong as leather. They have more advantages than disadvantages and are just right for protecting the heart and neck. At the same time, Shen Lian's pupils were covered by a thin film, just like a lizard, which could rely on the thin film to see things easily in the water. But there are no big rivers in Yanliang town, so what's the use of having good water resources? Shen Lian sighed. Once the strength dissipated, the special feature disappeared without a trace. If I marry and have children now, there's a chance that my offspring will inherit special traits. In that case, won't they also become sea dwellers? Shen Lian accepted the fact helplessly. At least his peculiarity could be controlled freely. The peculiar growth is obviously caused by the advancement of martial arts. The external skills are already like this, and no one knows what the even rarer internal skills will be like. Perfection shouldn't be the upper limit. Can the chasing waves pillar go one step further? Shen Lian focused on the martial arts column, and suddenly a new prompt appeared. Question mark. Wave chasing pile perfect. Features. Tide storage. Lack of the same realm pile method, unable to synthesize. Synthesis. You mean there are two perfect stances that can be combined into a more superior stance. The characteristic, storing tide, refers to the unique, storing without depletion, of Zulong Jin. I'm afraid that the characteristics of each force are different, and new characteristics should be born after the combination of the pile method. The same principle should apply to the tide strike fist. By combining the two perfect fists and palms, the new fighting style will naturally complement each other's strengths and weaknesses. It seems that two martial arts are not enough. Shen Lian performed the tide strike fist several times, and noticing that there was no movement in Xicheng district, he fell into a deep sleep, and when he woke up it was already noon. Because the corpse stripping case had just ended, the aftermath was still brewing. The government blocked some streets, many shops were closed, and even the morning market was temporarily moved to the junction of the east and west districts. Shen Lian did not stay at home for too long. After 3 days, as soon as the government lifted the ban on the streets, he could not wait to rush to the Tide Martial Arts School. On the surface, he was reporting his safety, but in fact, he was no longer satisfied with the existing martial arts. Even if Bai Haibo specialized in Zulongjuang and Jikaochuan, he should have other martial arts secrets, so it would be okay to learn them superficially. There's no way. I, Shen Lian, am really too ambitious. Chapter 17. Innate Horizontal Training Holy Body. Shen Lian walked on the street, and Xicheng district still seemed sparsely populated. There were more yamen runners than passers-by. As Shen Lian walked, his strength circulated autonomously throughout his skin. The progress of his skin refining was advancing all the time, and his energy and blood were overflowing. The reason why he was in a hurry to go to Tide Martial Arts School was also because the skin refining was going too smoothly. In another day or two, I'm afraid I will have to break through the bottleneck. Shen Lian was really afraid of scaring Bai Haibo. How can a martial artist who has just started skin refining reach the stage of flesh refining in less than 10 days? He has been tirelessly honing his strength. Shen Lian had not walked far when a myna bird flew out of the pawn shop window and landed on his shoulder. Ah! The starling tried to crawl into Shen Lian's sleeve, but it was getting fatter and fatter, and was already bigger than a crow, even though it was unwilling to admit it. Silly bird. Shen Lian seemed a little helpless. As Zhou Chaofeng accumulated experience, he always felt that the myna bird's intelligence was improving, but the focus was on its sharp tongue. Ah! Kind people are often bullied, and kind horses are often ridden. Fortunately, I am the one writing you. Shen Lian reached out and grabbed the starling by the neck, throwing it into the air. The myna bird screamed in pain and dared not get close to Shen Lian again. Shen Lian secretly felt lucky. The warrior was binding a dead object. It was hard to imagine how much trouble it would cause if a gossipy bird came along. He passed by the morning market in Xicheng district and glanced around. The traces of the fight have disappeared, but from the new and old tiles and the remaining bloodstains, one can tell how brutal the encirclement and suppression of Zhu Sanheng was. Even after the incident, the gang would not dare to bring bad luck to the government. At least Fulin will be slow to collect the pawnshop's monthly payment this month. Zhu Sanxing is not some monster. Since he has attracted the attention of the government, his strength must be far beyond the scope of warriors. Shen Lian has been exposed to martial arts for some time, but martial artists simply cannot reach the inhuman level. Bai Haibo also mentioned that the upper limit of external skills is not high. 80% of the difference lies in internal strength. If I have the chance, I really have to try out the mysteries of my inner strength. Shen Lian arrived at the door of the martial arts hall. The other disciples had already gone home to celebrate the new year, leaving only the Bai father and son, making the hall seem quite deserted. As soon as I entered the courtyard, I saw Bai Haibo watching Bai Jinbao standing in a stance. As Bai Jinbao had a weak constitution, he was sweating profusely in a short while. Who? Master Bai. When Bai Haibo saw Shen Lian, he couldn't help but nod. After the corpse stripping case was over, he asked Guo Sainer to go to the pawn shop, knowing that Shen Lian returned home safely that day. My disciple, don't walk at night next time. There are always bad guys in Yanliang town. Kindness. Bai Haibo discovered that something was wrong with Shen Lian. After such a short period of time, Shen Lian has completely changed. It is hard to imagine that he had just mastered the Zulong posture a few days ago. There is not a speck of fat on his body, and his every move and gesture has the aura of a martial arts master. Bai Haibo was speechless. He had only seen it in old warriors who had practiced the Zulong posture for decades. It seemed that Shen Lian had mastered the Zulong posture since birth, otherwise it would be unimaginable. The myna bird said slyly, the Yangtze River's back waves push the front waves, and the front waves die on the beach. Haha, yes. Bai Haibo stopped Bai Jinbao from standing still and asked him to go to the side room to rest for a while. He looked at Shen Lian carefully and noticed that the latter had completed most of the foundation building and skin refining, and his strength revealed some vigorous vitality. If nothing unexpected happens, promotion to leather refining is a foregone conclusion. Shen Lian, sit down, sit down. Bai Haibo was excited, but also felt an indescribable grief. To ordinary people, the corpse stripping case might be just a crackdown by the government on criminals, but in fact, the so-called criminals were demons. I heard that the government office dispatched dozens of warriors, hundreds of martial arts disciples, and the Jinwu guards to take charge. As a result, nearly 70 people were seriously injured and 12 died. In order to suppress the resentment of the ghosts, even all the black dogs in the surrounding area were killed, and countless amounts of cinnabar and yellow paper were consumed. Although the demons were dealt with successfully, there are still so many demons and monsters in the world that cannot be killed. Warriors, or just consumables. The saddest thing is that most warriors are not even consumables. They are just delicious blood food for demons and resources for cultivation. Demons and ghosts can continuously improve their spiritual power by devouring the blood of mortals. Master Bai, why do you want Jinbao to learn martial arts? Hey, I can't take care of him for his whole life. Even if he doesn't want to become a warrior, it's good enough for him to live safely past 50. The two chatted over tea. Shen Lian asked Bai Haibo indirectly about the issue of practicing both martial arts and thought that Bai Haibo would worry about biting off more than he could chew, but he took the initiative to ask. Indeed, with your talent, Shen Lian, it would be best for you to practice a hard qigong that can be practiced horizontally, so that your body will not have any flaws. Bai Haibo didn't finish his words. The horizontal training technique is useless against demons, but if Shen Lian really encounters a demon, at least he can die a little later than others. Horizontal training. I think there are very few martial arts schools in Yanliang town that offer horizontal training. Disciple, you don't know. Bai Haibo started searching in the inner room while explaining to Shen Lian. Horizontal training is similar to fighting, and is also a martial art that uses strength. However, horizontal training uses strength to protect the body. Once it is performed, the strength will not be exhausted, and swords and knives will have difficulty injuring the skin and flesh. Unfortunately, the disadvantages of horizontal training are too great. Bai Haibo took out an old and tattered book. The words, "Iron Shirt," were written on the cover of the book. The paper was yellowed, stained with mildew, and there were teeth marks on the edges from rodents. Shen Lian's interest increased greatly, and practicing horizontal hard qigong was something he had been considering. Bai Haibo handed the secret book to Shen Lian and continued, "No matter what kind of horizontal training you do, you need external force to continuously strike your body so that the strength can be tempered in specific acupoints, and then you can use medicinal soup to recover from the injury until you master the horizontal training." Shen Lian's brows relaxed. Is it easy to damage one's foundation if one practices horizontal training? It's more than just self-harm. Bai Haibo smiled bitterly. Those martial artists who learn horizontal training rarely live past 50, and they suffer a lot in their later years. Even if you take powerful medicine, there is no guarantee that you will not suffer any hidden harm. I have been thinking about this recently. Shen Lian, you are very suitable for horizontal training. Bai Haibo filled the teacup for Shen Lian. Shen Lian, your stomach is extraordinary. You are born with a special constitution that can digest more than 80% of the medicinal power of the medicinal food. As long as the medicinal diet continues, the impact of hidden injuries will be minimized. Shen Lian chuckled. Food supplement has already reached 78%. Once a warrior is promoted, that is the real food supplement for heaven. Bai Haibo licked his lips and couldn't help muttering, horizontal training has another benefit. If you can endure the hardship and take the medicine, the practice of horizontal training will be smooth sailing. Shen Lian's pupils shrank slightly. There are obvious advantages and disadvantages in the profession panel. The advantage is that you can spend points to forcibly improve your martial arts, but the disadvantage is more fatal because the points are too precious. It takes 18 points to master the wave-chasing posture from beginning to end. Normally speaking, unless Shen Lian had the opportunity to make rice cakes a few more times, he would only be able to combine the pile method once or twice at best. If horizontal training can really achieve success quickly. What does it mean? As long as the points consumed in the synthesis are not too many, Shen Lian can practice horizontal training on his own and combine a large number of perfect horizontal training into a magical skill. From this perspective, can I be considered as a person who has attained the innate holy body? Chapter 18, Advancement of Flesh Refining. Shen Lian flipped through the Iron Shirt and found that the content was indeed very superficial. The Iron Shirt only involves the acupoints that need to be tempered with strength, and there is no explanation of the force of the strike itself, which seems ambiguous. There is a secret recipe for traumatic injury wine on the last page of the secret book. However, in Shen Lian's opinion, it is unrealistic to prevent hidden injuries by simply applying traumatic injury wine externally. Even the current dietary supplements cannot be without any side effects. But it does not matter. The fact that it was quick was enough to make Shen Lian refuse. Do you want to consume 1 point to master the Iron Shirt? Shen Lian closed the secret book and rejected the prompt on the profession panel. Are you kidding? I, Shen Lian, have always wanted to be strong. Why should I rely on Deep Blue to gain points when practicing martial arts? Bai Haibo thought Shen Lian still had some concerns, so he spoke to comfort him. In fact, horizontal training is not the only option. Don't worry, I'm just making an immature suggestion. Master Bai, you are right. I should try horizontal training. Bai Haibo smiled and said, you should focus on improving your physical training now. You can put off your horizontal training until you break through the bottleneck. By then, you will have more strength. Shen Lian put the secret manual close to his body and then asked, Iron Shirt is not considered a superior martial art, right? Is there a place where I can get a better horizontal training secret manual? It doesn't matter if I spend money on it. To be precise, Iron Shirt is barely even inferior. Every martial arts school in Yanliang town has the secret manual of Iron Shirt, but there are only a handful of martial artists willing to try it, and most of them come from poor families. Bai Haibo hesitated to speak, and after a long time he squeezed out 2 words from between his teeth. Ghost market. Is there a ghost market in Yanliang town? Shen Lian understood the meaning of ghost market, which generally refers to underground transactions that are not allowed to be seen in public. He did not expect that such a small place as Yanliang town also had one. Kindness. Bai Haibo added vaguely, the ghost market opens on the 15th of every month. The government knows about the ghost market, but they have never paid attention to it. It has existed for decades. I entered by mistake earlier, and have been in and out 3 times since then. Well, it's not safe, but it won't be too dangerous if you follow the rules. Shen Lian nodded slightly. It is much more convenient than acquiring martial arts from gangs or martial arts schools. Even martial artists cannot escape unscathed if they are involved in the open and secret struggles among various forces. The black market is located on Lanshan Street in the southern part of Yanliang town. I will tell you the specific taboos. You must be careful when you go in and out. Lanshan Street. Shen Lian repeated it several times. Nanchang District has a special location in Yanliang town. Because the South City Gate is close to the mountains, the residents gathered here are mainly miners. There is a mix of good and bad people there, and the buildings are old and messy. But it's okay. As long as it's within the scope of Yanliang town and the government office is there, Shen Lian doesn't think that Nanchang District is so dangerous that no one should go near it. Bai Haibo sighed imperceptibly. Ghost City. The ghost market he was talking about was not an ordinary ghost market, but a real ghost market. Bai Haibo did not remind Shen Lian, nor could he remind him. If you don't know the true face of the ghost market, you will not be deeply involved in it. Once you find out, it will be a life-threatening situation. Facing cognitive impairment from demons is never a good thing, but it's the exact opposite in the ghost market. Bai Haibo remembered that the last time he entered the ghost market was 5 years ago. When he discovered the strangeness of the ghost market, he felt a chill even though he was 1,000 meters away from the South City area. How could he not attract the attention of demons? From then on, he never set foot in the ghost market again. Bai Haibo heard that demons with high levels of Taoism could even hide quietly in towns and cities and influence mortals invisibly. Think of this. Bai Haibo couldn't help but shudder, and the 9-eared demon in the alley suddenly flashed through his mind. Could it be related to his disciple? Well, you're overthinking it. How could a demon deliberately hide itself to protect a mortal? Shen Lian, the ghost market was established by an alchemist, and it is somewhat mysterious. Bai Haibo pushed the blame of the ghost market onto the Taoist priest to prevent Shen Lian from becoming suspicious. Then, he talked about the strange taboos of the ghost market, and Shen Lian memorized them one by one. Whether to go to the ghost market or not, Shen Lian still has to see how efficient his practice of horizontal training is and whether his self-proclaimed innate horizontal training holy body can play a role. After he and the Bai family finished their lunch, they left the martial arts hall. The street was finally a little crowded. It is estimated that within a few days, Zhu Sengxing's incident will become a rumor, and perhaps the newly compiled Kaotang miscellaneous notes will contain similar records. As soon as Shen Lian returned to the pawn shop, he went straight to the open space in the backyard. The aroma of medicinal food is everywhere. Ah! The starling seemed a little impatient and was very interested in the chicken soup made with medicinal herbs. I guess its plump body was due to eating too much. Shen Lian served the starling a bowl of soup, and then quickly finished the medicinal food. It's still nice to be at home. Shen Lian digested the nutrients while basking in the sun with his eyes closed, and at the same time practiced the Zulong posture, secretly striving to reach the realm of flesh refining. Naturally, there are waiters to help take care of the cooking temperature of the medicinal food. One set of herbs can be used to make 4 servings of medicinal food. When the medicinal power is exhausted, the waiter will add new ones, so you don't have to worry too much. Shen Lian's life was like this, he only practiced boxing once every 2 hours. The Tide Strike Fist consumes too much nutrients, so I must focus on building the foundation, and the subsequent Iron Shirt will have a higher priority than the fighting method. There is no way, trade-offs are inevitable. Fortunately, the perfect chasing wave posture can make the comprehension of the striking Tide Fist twice as effective with half the effort, but it still takes a lot of hard work to achieve a small breakthrough. Anyway, there are surplus points. If you encounter danger, you can directly force your boxing skills to advance. Shen Lian found a legitimate reason to give up, and soon he was drowsy in the warm winter afternoon sun, his snoring faintly audible. It was a mess for 2 days in a row. Only Mr. Wang tried to persuade Shen Lian earnestly, but after seeing the power of Shen Lian's boxing, he never mentioned the importance of hard work in practicing martial arts again. Shen Lian did not pay attention to the progress of skin refining, but instead paid attention to the warrior profession. Before I knew it, it had reached 81.4%. Mainly, we have to thank Mr. Ma Yi for taking the trouble to deliver the second batch of pickled fish. In a martial arts training state that ordinary warriors dare not imagine, Shen Lian has an opportunity for a breakthrough. Well, Shen Lian woke up suddenly. He jumped up from the chair, swallowed the remaining medicine, and then stood in the courtyard. Shen Lian's skin turned red, and the strong force, carrying his qi and blood, continuously washed his skin. Pieces of scales emerged. Shen Lian was shirtless, like a mermaid in mythology. Crystal clear sweat dripped onto the ground, and the water splashed into rising mist. Boom! There was a muffled sound from the ground, and cracks spread out. Shen Lian opened his mouth and inhaled a long stream of air. When he exhaled, the condensed white smoke was 2 meters long. The total amount of wave-chasing power in Dantian suddenly doubled, like a shallow pond. The effect of skin refining is greatly reduced, and the toughness of the skin reaches the extreme of a warrior. Shen Lian's flesh and blood actively accepted the Zulong force, but it was limited to the fascia. If he wanted it to spread throughout his flesh and blood, his current practice was obviously not enough. The career panel is revealed. Realm, foundation building, flesh refining. Shen Lian took another firm step towards the warrior, his joy beyond words. He couldn't help but perform a set of tide strike fist in the courtyard, and suddenly a whistling fist wind swept in, increasing the power by at least 50%. When he felt like it, Shen Lian practiced boxing until late at night. He restrained his breath and planned to go back to the house to consolidate his Zulong Jing. As soon as he left the courtyard, Shen Lian ran into Mr. Wang head-on. Young Master, there is a reply letter from Gaojia Town, signed by Master. Chapter 19. New Year's Day, no strangers allowed. As the sky gradually darkened, the lights in Yanliang Town went out one after another. Although the government has lifted the curfew, the people are still frightened by the corpse stripping case, and rumors that sound true or false are spreading. Bai Haibo hadn't fallen asleep yet, sorting out the martial arts school's expenses for the past year. Sudden, there was a knock on the door. Shen Lian, that's not right, he just came here during the day. Bai Haibo was a little scared. After all, Shicheng district had just experienced a rebellion caused by demons. Before he could react, Bai Jinbao had already walked towards the door, and the person knocking on the door outside seemed to hear the footsteps and stopped abruptly. What the hell? Bai Haibo's hair stood on end and he crossed the door in 2 or 3 steps. Jinbao, don't. Before he could finish his words, Bai Jinbao had already lifted the wooden plug. A gust of wind blew past and the door opened to both sides. Outside the martial arts hall was deep in endless darkness. I could vaguely see a man standing not far away. Father. Bai Jinbao was so frightened that his face turned pale and he called out to Bai Haibo. Not afraid. Bai Haibo's chest heaved violently. He quickly used all his strength to pull the child over. His right hand behind his back was already gathering strength for a punch. Even if he understood that if it really was a demon or monster, a warrior would be no match for him. It must be a drunk passing by. Let's retreat to the inner room and make sure not to alarm others. Bai Haibo covered Bai Jinbao's eyes. Children have weak blood and energy, and just a moment of eye contact with a demon might cause resentment to enter their bodies. Bai Haibo looked cautious and glanced at the man, whose face was blurry. The man was very tall, with his arms reaching down to his knees. Bai Haibo recognized the man's attire and found it to be similar to that of a letter delivery man. The postmen were under the jurisdiction of the government. Unless it is the capital of the Tang Dynasty, there are relatively limited postmen in towns and cities. Bai Haibo has never seen such a tall and strong postman. The postman moved stiffly as he also walked away from the martial arts hall step by step and disappeared into the night. In a moment, it disappeared without a trace. Bai Haibo was confused, and Bai Jinbao took a peek through his fingers. Dad, there is a letter at the door. Was it sent by him? You, don't move. The letter was stuffed in the gap between the wall tiles. The paper was brand new and I took a look at it in the moonlight. The cover clearly read, sent from Gaojia Town, received by my husband Bai Haibo. Bai Haibo's pupils shrank slightly. Husband. Bai Haibo's late wife died accidentally 7 years ago. It was announced to the public that she drowned, but in fact it was just to let her go in a dignified way. She did die of illness in Gaojia Town at that time. Bai Haibo clearly remembered his late wife's extremely strange and stubborn illness. In just 7 days, he became so thin that his bones were all he had. Even calling a doctor was of no use. He didn't have a pound of flesh left when he died. Bai Haibo has always been obsessed with finding out the cause of his late wife's death. Even if it was done by a demon, it must be made clear. After burying his deceased wife, Bai Haibo simply settled in the nearby Yanliang town. Every year on Qingming Festival, he would go to Gaojia town to pay his respects. It's been so long, why can't she rest in peace? Bai Haibo was on pins and needles, knowing that the letter was definitely not from his deceased wife. At this time, dense footsteps were heard, and a large number of Yamen runners holding torches surrounded the martial arts hall. The Yamen runners were silent and had already started searching around the courtyard wall. Many of them still had injuries from the hunt for the painted skin ghost. Bai Haibo recognized the old captain of the police. Captain Hong, that man, that letter, what exactly is it? Hong'an made a gesture to silence everyone, and then the bailiffs separated the paths. Zhu Yihong solemnly walked to the door of the martial arts hall and picked up the envelope. Don't spread it outside. The government will be responsible for handling it. After Zhu Yihong finished speaking, he turned and left. Hong'an could not help but follow closely behind him, leaving only a few Yamen runners to carry out routine duties and clear up any grievances. Bai Haibo couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief when he saw the government intervene. As soon as Zhu Yihong walked out of the alley, Hong'an couldn't help but whispered, "Sir, tonight is already the 45th letter, and the source is all in Gaojia town, right?" "Yes, that postman should not be alive either." Zhu Yihong opened the letter and found only a short sentence in it. Question mark. Don't worry, I will return home on the 4th day of the new year. Call. Captain Hong, thank you for your help. Have all the Yamen runners work in groups of 10. No letters can be hidden in the dark places of the town. I will contact the rest of the Jinwu guards for support as soon as possible. Zhu Yihong pinched the bridge of his nose in pain. The trouble caused by the painted skin ghost had just ended, and troubles were spreading to Gaojia town again. The common point of all the signatories of the letters is that they died in Gaojia town within 10 years. And the content of the letter is highly consistent. The only difference is that the time of returning home is different, from the 1st day to the 9th day of the new year. The envelope is most likely a medium to guide the demons and monsters here. As for the different time points of their return, it probably represents the depth of their cultivation. Fortunately, there are still 23 days until the new year, so we can prepare in advance. However, the imperial court may not have too many idle Jinwu guards to handle the soul-calling case. Pawn shop. Shen Lian took the letter handed to him by Mr. Wang and saw that the handwriting was indeed Shen Hansheng's. Young master, it was Dang Ding who heard the knock on the door, but after opening the door, the messenger was no longer near the store. Mr. Wang did not suspect too much. Most postmen were taciturn, and probably because they were away from home for most of the year, they were more cautious. Shen Lian took out the paper. Don't worry, I will return home on the 39th day of the first lunar month. The 39th day of the first lunar month. There is no such thing as the 39th day of the first lunar month. Could it be that Shen Hansheng was not sure when he would come back after the new year, so he just randomly filled in the 39th day of the first lunar month? Old Shen insisted on being a riddle teller. Shen Lian looked out the window and saw snowflakes falling again. After the heavy rain in the past few days, the water on the ground was frozen, and there were many mountain roads on the official road, which were not suitable for carriages to pass through, and it was easy to fall off the cliff accidentally. Mr. Wang breathed a sigh of relief and said, "It's good that everything is fine. The pawn business is not urgent." Kindness. Shen Lian put away the letter and used his keen eye as usual. Shen Hansheng's family letter was successfully identified. Zhuer Chaofeng experience plus 1.65%. Shen Hansheng's family letter. Written by Shen Hansheng, the ink and paper were taken from the shop number 13, Yongqi Street, Gaojia Town, and it carries Shen Hansheng's wish to return home. Closing square bracket. Shen Lian took a breath of cold air. Why can an ordinary letter from home provide such rich experience? The way to gain experience through the profession panel was becoming increasingly confusing to him. No matter how hard he looked, there was no pattern at all. But just a reminder to me. From now on, no matter what item you have to appraise it first. Otherwise, it will take a long time for the nine-eared court official to be promoted. Shen Lian didn't pay attention to the letter, but the starling outside the window was chirping. A dozen Yamen runners passed by the pawnshop. Hong'an sensed through the magic compass that there was a letter in He Fengji, but when he got closer, the resentment contained in the letter disappeared. He suddenly remembered the rumors about the 1,000-year-old demon in the yamen, and he couldn't help but shudder. The compass covers a limited area. Someone must be carrying a letter on the road. Besides, it's unrealistic for a 1,000-year-old demon to be involved in the soul-calling case. The cries of starlings echoed in the alleys. Hong An subconsciously looked towards the pawnshop, and saw Shen Lian standing with his back to the window. The candle flame flickered. The back figure was stretched extremely long. Chapter 20. My talent for horizontal training is so terrifying. Shen Lian felt something was strange. The pawnshop is often away, and old man Shen has never written a letter home. Now he deliberately sends it before the new year. Is there trouble in Gaojia town? Shen Lian asked Mr. Wang to find a caravan that was going to Gaojia town recently and help find out something. I can only hope it's okay. That night, Shen Lian stabilized the Zulong power and prepared to practice the iron shirt the next day. It can be seen from the corpse stripping case that this world is far from being as simple as it seems. Although Shen Lian likes to play badly, he still needs to work hard. Intermittently complacent. Once you understand the synthesis function of the profession panel, the rest will be smooth sailing. I really have to go to the ghost market. It's too dangerous to obtain martial arts secrets through other channels. There are only 10 days left before the ghost market opens. According to Bai Haibo, the ghost market will last for 3 days and 3 nights, but there will be all kinds of people there, so it is best not to stay for a long time. If you enter the ghost market at night, you must evacuate Lanshan Street before dawn. Shen Lian's goal is not only to practice horizontally, if possible, he would like to try out stance training, fighting techniques, and even internal strength. You don't need too much money. It is said that the things in the ghost market are not exposed to the public and the prices are ordinary. We have to find a way to make some money after the new year. It's not okay to just sit there and do nothing. Shen Lian scanned the career panel. If it is a part-time job, making money is not difficult. However, the third profession must be considered carefully and the quota must not be wasted. After Shen Lian had mastered the iron shirt, he came to the courtyard of the pawnshop. In order to ensure the smooth learning of the horizontal training, there were 5 clay pots for cooking medicinal food. Fugi was waiting beside him, and as soon as Shen Lian waved, he would immediately bring the medicinal food. The starling kept harassing Fugi, who dared not move at all. You know, the starling's sharp claws are no joke nowadays. Mina, be quiet. Ah, Master Ba, I am the owner of the pawn shop. Shen Lian picked up a stone and threw the starling away, then stood still and calmed his breathing. The iron shirt has long been engraved in my mind. He didn't prepare any medicinal wine for traumatic injuries. The skin absorbs medicine too slowly, and it can't be as effective as food supplements. A good stomach and intestines are the most important thing. If I didn't have the professional panel, I would never practice iron shirt. Horizontal training requires external force to hit the acupoints, and the acupoints involved in iron shirt are all on the back and distributed on both sides of the spine. If you are not careful, you may become paralyzed. Shen Lian secretly complained that the benefits and risks of horizontal training were not proportional at all. If you practice it too hard, you will shorten your lifespan, and if you practice it too badly, you will become disabled. It's outrageous to think about it. Shen Lian held the hardwood stick that had almost become his root, and tapped his back carefully, trying to find the approximate location of the acupoint. Soon, the skin on the back turned slightly red. Shen Lian was puzzled, and even when he used the Zulong force he was unable to sense the acupoints. It seems that if you don't treat yourself harshly, you won't be able to enter the horizontal training. Is the warrior who created the iron fir tree mentally ill? Shen Lian narrowed his eyes and drank the chicken soup in the casserole in one gulp. Suddenly, rich nutrients are produced. Shen Lian knocked hard on his back, and a dull sound was heard. The skin and flesh became red and swollen in the blink of an eye, and then nutrients were absorbed to repair the injury. Hiss! Fugi gasped, causing the starling to laugh loudly. While the pain was still there, Shen Lian couldn't help but concentrate. He controlled the wave of energy that surged into his back, causing the tingling pain to intensify, spreading from his spine to his entire upper body. Could it be a mistake? Don't mess up. Shen Lian hesitated slightly, then noticed the blurred words, iron shirt, on the career panel. He was overjoyed. Horizontal training was indeed a quick learning martial art. Just by tempering some acupoints to strengthen his strength, he was already showing signs of getting started. Shen Lian increased the frequency without thinking, and the hardwood stick continued to hit his back. Bang 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 bang. Fugi couldn't bear to look at it, but the starling was so happy as if he had eaten a pound of chestnuts that he wished he could grow 2 hands to help Shen Lian knock them down. Little starling, haha, you will get what you deserve sooner or later. Shen Lian only had a vague understanding of the acupoints, but as the power penetrated his back, a star-filled picture seemed to appear in his mind. He understood that the starlight was the many acupoints distributed on the back. Shen Lian's movements became regular. What was originally an indiscriminate attack has now targeted the acupoints. Almost every strike landed precisely on the surface of the acupoints, and the hidden injuries were repaired by nutrients, while the Zulong force quietly tempered the acupoints. The iron shirt on the occupation panel became a little clearer. Hey hey. Shen Lian showed a smile on his face. He was worthy of being the only one in ancient and modern times, with extraordinary talent, amazing bones and terrifying innate holy body. He stopped to rest only after most of his strength was exhausted. Wealth, medicinal food. Come, come. Fugi was in a panic because Shen Lian's invisible aura was too terrifying. Shen Lian poured well water on his back, and the pain eased a little. After he finished another pot of medicinal food, the swelling on his skin and flesh had actually subsided. To ensure that your foundation is not damaged, wait until the blood stasis disappears before continuing to practice iron shirt. The hardwood sticks couldn't bear the weight and had dents on the tops. If they were ordinary wooden sticks, more than a dozen of them would have been broken. The noises in the courtyard were intermittent, increasingly sounding like the collision of a heavy object. Shen Lian originally thought that it would take at least 5 days to get started with the iron shirt, but when he woke up that night, his acupoints had already become compatible with his strength. Early the next morning, Shen Lian had just warmed himself up with a hardwood stick when the stinging pain in his back quietly disappeared. The flow of strength between the acupoints is extremely smooth. He summoned up his career panel in disbelief. The affirmation from the golden finger greatly increased the value of the innate horizontal training holy body. Martial arts. Chasing waves, perfect, tide striking fist, first glimpse, iron shirt, first glimpse. Only a day and a half. Shen Lian spent half a day familiarizing himself with the acupoints of the iron shirt. Theoretically, 1 day would be more than enough to get started. It can be seen that food supplements are one aspect and the perfect Zulong posture is another. Shen Lian used the iron shirt, and the muscles on his back formed into one piece, using 30% of his strength to maintain it, and the texture of his skin and flesh felt like rock. The chest also plays a role, but it is far less obvious than the back. As for hidden injuries, Shen Lian did not have any obvious discomfort. After all, when he was tempering his acupoints, nutrients were used to repair his injuries, so he thought it should be no big deal. The days passed in the repeated torture of the iron vest. Shen Lian didn't even have time to practice boxing, as he focused on practicing iron shirt. 7th day. Iron shirt has officially reached minor success. Unfortunately, even if the level of inferior martial arts is improved, the increase in strength is only relatively ordinary. Fortunately, Shen Lian did not feel any obvious bottleneck, and it should take less than a month for iron shirt to be fully mastered. As he became more familiar with the iron shirt, Shen Lian no longer hit the back himself. He called 2 servants, and after paying a few taels of silver, the servants willingly became tools, holding hardwood sticks to help practice horizontal training. The 2 Dang Ding took turns to fight, but Shen Lian lay down in the courtyard and took a nap. Who says horizontal training can't be done badly? On the 15th day of that month, Shen Lian quietly left the pawnshop. Thank you for watching. Continue exploring the fascinating world of Chinese novels with us. Hit that subscribe button on Chinese Novel Audiobook to stay updated with our latest stories. And never miss out on a great listen.